Chapter 4087. Don't worry, I've already prepared. Mu Qing chuckled and took out a divine sound transmission stone from her bosom. Huh? Li Feng was stunned and asked, You've already recorded it? Of course. Just in case. Mu Qing nodded. And you have foresight. Li Feng was impressed. Compared to these people, there was still a gap. Because at that time, he didn't think about it at all. Mu Qing smiled and said, Why don't we go to Longqing now and help you unlock the seals of the 3 iron boxes? Li Feng pondered for a while and shook his head. I'd better wait a little longer and help Brother Crazy and Brother Wolf unlock the seals first, because Crazy only lacked 3 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. White-Eyed Wolf only lacked 2 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. If he helped them unlock the seals first, they could directly master the will of heaven. As for Li Feng, he only mastered 2 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws, namely the space-time law and the time law. So even if he unlocked the seals of the 3 iron boxes, he couldn't master the will of heaven. That's true. At present, what we need the most is a powerhouse who can master the will of heaven. Mu Qing nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and handed the 3 inheritances to Mu Qing. For me? Mu Qing was stunned. Yes. Mu Tianyang already has 6 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws, so it's naturally your turn next. You can integrate these 3 inheritances first, and we'll slowly think of a way for the remaining 3. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Thank you. Mu Qing took the 3 inheritances. These 3 inheritances were the destruction law, the death law, and the devour law. As long as he integrated these 3 inheritances, even without the will of heaven, he would be able to fight against the heaven's pride of the divine kingdom in the future without the help of the flame magic sword. But you'll have to wait a little longer for the integration. Qin Feiyang said, I understand. We still have to meet up with the madman and the white-eyed wolf. Mu Qing nodded and smiled. She put away the 3 inheritances and immediately activated her all-seeing eye to check the whereabouts of the mad scientist and the white-eyed wolf. Very soon, he could see where the 2 of them were at the moment, but the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. What is it? Qin Feiyang and Li Feng were suspicious. Mu Qing said, They are actually drinking in a restaurant. Ugh. Li Feng was stunned. Didn't he ask them to gather information? Why did he go to a restaurant? If they are in a restaurant, then it means that they are not slacking off, because restaurants are the best place to gather information. Let's just wait for the good news. Qin Feiyang smiled and led the 2 into the Black Tortoise world. In the blink of an eye, thousands of years passed in the Black Tortoise world, but in the outside world, only 1 day had passed. Boom! On this day, suddenly, a terrifying aura erupted from the Devil's Land. Auspicious clouds rolled over and shrouded the sky. A wave of heavenly Tao pressure roared in all directions. Qin Feiyang walked out of the ancient castle and looked at the sky in surprise. The will of heavenly Tao. When he closed his eyes and released his perception, he soon found the person who had broken through. It was Longqing. At this moment, Longqing was sitting cross-legged under a tree of creation in the herb field. His expression was extremely serene, and his body was surrounded by the power of the 6 strongest laws. They were the death law, space-time law, time law, cause and effect law, destruction law, and the last strongest law was the nothingness law. Swish! Soon, the will of heavenly Tao descended and went straight to Longqing. It was also at this moment that Longqing opened his eyes and looked at the descending will of heavenly Tao, his eyes full of joy. It turns out to be this woman. Li Feng and Mu Qing also walked out. Sensing Longqing's aura, their eyes were full of envy. There is no hurry. It's only a matter of time before you guys do it. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, swept up the 2 of them, and instantly landed beside Longqing. At this moment, the will of heavenly Tao had already integrated into Longqing's body, and the auspicious clouds were gradually dissipating. Congratulations! Qin Feiyang chuckled. For them, it was naturally a joyous thing that Longqing had mastered the will of heavenly Tao, because this meant that their overall strength had increased by a large margin. It's a matter of course, there's nothing to congratulate. Longqing waved his hand, got up, and patted the dust off his clothes, but the pride in his expression was clearly visible. Li Feng pursed his lips and looked at Long Qin, saying, "Your brother should be there soon." Him? When Long Qin heard this, he said proudly, "It's still too early for him." In the past, when we asked him to integrate the inheritance, he looked disdainful, saying that he had to rely on himself to comprehend. In the end, when I integrated 4 inheritances, he didn't even comprehend one ultimate meaning. This attitude of yours won't do. Your brother wants to comprehend it himself because he has ambition. Li Feng despised him. Can ambition feed you? Moreover, didn't he still choose to integrate the inheritances now? You people are courting death for no reason. You don't want a ready-made one and insist on showing off. Long Qin snorted coldly. Hey, hey, hey. Just talk about your brother. Don't drag us into it. Okay? Mu Qing's face darkened. I'm giving you face by talking about you. I can't be bothered to talk about ordinary people. Long Qin raised his head, looking insufferably arrogant, making Mu Qing feel helpless. If it was in the past, if Long Qin showed such an attitude, no one would feel comfortable in their hearts. But now, instead, they felt that it was a little cute. Let me show you something. Mu Qing took out the divine voice transmission stone and displayed the scene of Jiang Yunshuang and the other 2 in the void in front of them. You guys are so fast. Long Qin was dumbfounded. She originally planned to deal with Jiang Yunshuang personally after she came out of seclusion. If we don't act quickly, how can we show our sincerity? Can you help us unlock the seals of the 3 iron boxes now? Li Feng asked with a smile. Long Qin heard this and looked at Li Feng with a trace of playfulness in her eyes. Li Feng's eyelids twitched and he hurriedly said, "A man of character keeps his word. Don't go back on your words." "I'm a little girl," Long Qin said in a teasing tone. The corners of Li Feng's mouth twitched. Did a woman have the right to go back on her words? Cough, cough. Brother, haven't you heard of this saying? In this world, only women and villains are difficult to deal with. Mu Qing patted Li Feng's shoulder and said meaningfully. Sigh. Li Feng sighed. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. This saying was indeed true. Qin Feiyang did not say anything about this matter. He would wait until he met the white-eyed wolf and the lunatic and let them settle it themselves. Perhaps, when the white-eyed wolf made a move, there would be an unexpected effect. Buzz. Suddenly, the divine sound transmission stone rang. Qin Feiyang was stunned and quickly took out the divine sound transmission stone. The phantoms of the lunatic and the white-eyed wolf immediately appeared. This damn woman is also here. The white-eyed wolf looked at Long Qin in surprise. Who are you scolding? Scold me again if you dare. Long Qin stared at the white-eyed wolf angrily. I'm scolding you. What can you do? The white-eyed wolf bared its teeth, looking provocative. Wait and see. Long Qin gritted her teeth. She was already thinking about how to teach this wolf cub a lesson later. Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf playfully. This guy still didn't know that Long Qin had already mastered the will of heaven. When they meet later, there will definitely be a good show to watch. The white-eyed wolf also noticed Qin Feiyang's strange eyes and couldn't help but have an uneasy premonition. How's the investigation? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. With us taking action, is there anything we can't handle? The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly and said, We have already inquired clearly. Ji Shaoi's battle soul is the Eye of Destiny. We have also investigated Lu Zhongtian and Zhuang Mingyue's battle souls. Lu Zhongtian has the Eye of Destruction, and Zhuang Mingyue has the Eye of Oblivion. Eye of Destiny, Eye of Destruction, Eye of Oblivion, Qin Feiyang murmured. On their side, the Eye of Oblivion was Lin Yi. The Eye of Destruction was Lu Zhengyang. Now, Lin Yi and Lu Zhengyang weren't in the Divine Kingdom. If they wanted to snatch them, they would have to capture Zhuang Mingyue and Lu Zhongtian and bring them back to the Sky Cloud realm. Did you find out who owns the Eye of Reincarnation and the Eye of Nothingness? Qin Feiyang asked. Of the 10 strongest battle souls, 8 of them had already appeared. Only the Eye of Reincarnation and the Eye of Nothingness were still missing. We have also inquired, but there is no information about the Eye of Reincarnation and the Eye of Nothingness. So we guessed that the eye of reincarnation and the eye of nothingness might not be in the divine kingdom, Madman said. Not in the divine kingdom? Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback and frowned. Could it be in the sky cloud realm? But we have been in the sky cloud realm all these years and have never heard of anyone possessing the eye of reincarnation and the eye of nothingness. I don't know. Anyway, at present, there is no news about the eye of reincarnation and the eye of nothingness in the divine kingdom. Madman shook his head. Then let's ignore these two battle souls for the time being. Have you inquired about where Ji Shaoi is now? Qin Feiyong asked. Yes. Madman nodded. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and said, Give me the coordinates. We will meet up with you immediately. North Continent. At this time, it was noon. The scorching sun was in the sky. In the west, there was an extremely remote mountain range. Here, the mountains were towering and the vegetation was vigorous. Around the mountain range, there were many small villages. The people who lived here were no different from ordinary mortals. Deep in the mountain range, on a mountain peak, two young men, with their auras restrained, stood beside a big tree like ghosts, looking at a village not far ahead. These two were really Madman and White-Eyed Wolf. Swish! About a few breaths later, a space-time passage appeared behind the two of them. The two of them turned their heads and saw Qin Feiyong and the other three walking out of the space-time passage. Damn wolf cub! Long Qin immediately stared at the White-Eyed Wolf unkindly. Stop fooling around. The White-Eyed Wolf hurriedly reached out to stop him and said in a deep voice, The target is in front. Don't let them find out. Long Qin was stunned and looked up at the village in front of him. Qin Feiyong, Li Feng, and Mu Qing also looked up. When they saw the full appearance of the village, they could not help but be stunned. There were a total of 10 households in the village, formed by small, inconspicuous wooden buildings, looking more backward than ordinary small villages. This was too ordinary. I'll let you go first, you bastard. Long Qin stared at the White-Eyed Wolf and scanned the village, frowning. This place looks very ordinary on the surface, but in fact, it is extraordinary everywhere. You have good observation skills. The White-Eyed Wolf laughed. Chapter 4088. Although the village was ordinary, there was not a single beast around the village. There were only some birds, butterflies, bees, rabbits, and other small animals. Above the village, one could faintly sense the aura of the power of laws. There was even the aura of a time array. Moreover, the vegetation in this mountain range was exuding an abnormally exuberant vitality. It was as if there was a spring of life here. Qin Feiyong turned to look at Long Qin and asked, Use your battle soul to take a look. Okay. Long Qin nodded, her eyes emitting wisps of divine light. When she activated her battle soul and looked at the village again, a trace of shock appeared on her face. The time array that had merged with the earth was revealed. What was even more terrifying was, the sky above the village was filled with an invisible force. This was formed by the power of the strongest laws. According to her analysis, these power of laws had all reached the level of ultimate meaning. Moreover, deep underground in the village, she also saw many spirit veins and crystal veins. These spirit veins and crystal veins were all top grade. Just imagine, if it was an ordinary village, how could there be such things? We have already come to observe earlier. There are a total of 15 old people here. The madman whispered. 15 old people? Qin Feiyong was taken aback. That's right. The people living here are either old men or old women. Other than Ji Shaoi, there isn't even a young man. The madman said. There isn't even a young man. Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered and said with a smile, It seems that this should be the place where the 15 old people live in seclusion. The White-Eyed Wolf suddenly asked, Since Ji Shaoi is here, it means that these old people are related to the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. Do you feel the intimacy of blood being thicker than water here? I really don't. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Then this is strange. The White-Eyed Wolf frowned. Qin Feiyong looked at the madman and the White-Eyed Wolf suspiciously and asked, You didn't hear the origin of these people? No. We went to ask the people of the other villages nearby. But we heard that these 15 old people usually never leave the village and never communicate with the people of other villages, so we are not very familiar with them." The madman shook his head. "So mysterious?" Li Feng's eyes were filled with curiosity. "Not only is it mysterious, but it must be terrifying. Otherwise, the human race's supreme would not have advised us not to come here," Qin Feiyong said with a smile. "Then, should we go or not?" the white-eyed wolf asked. "Of course, and I'm going to do it openly, because no matter how close we are, we will not be able to go." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. With a single step, he appeared 1,000 miles away. Li, and Madman, Li, at the same time. At this moment, all the elders in the village raised their heads and looked at Qin Feiyong and the others. They came really fast. An old man with white hair chuckled. "This is the ability of the all-seeing eye. No matter where Ji Shaoi is hiding, they will be able to track him immediately." An old woman laughed hoarsely, then looked away and continued to wash clothes by the river. The other old people also continued to drink tea, chat, play chess, or fish. It was a peaceful and harmonious scene. Swish. Soon, Qin Feiyong and the others came to the sky above the village and landed on the other side of the river in front of the village. The river was 5 or 6 meters wide. On the opposite bank of the river, an old man was sitting on a small stool, fishing quietly. Not far away, an old lady washing clothes also kept her head down, as if she didn't see Qin Feiyong and the others. Everyone was busy with their own things. "What do you mean? Do you think we are air?" The white-eyed wolf frowned. "Don't worry." Qin Feiyong waved his hand and stood quietly by the river, watching all of this. At the top of the back mountain, in the tea garden, Master Jijio was pruning the tea trees as usual. Next to him was a young man in purple. This man was about 25 or 26 years old. He was tall and straight and had an extraordinary appearance. But at this moment, there was a trace of nervousness on his well-defined face, and he glanced at the other side of the river in front of the village from time to time. "Are you scared?" Master Jijio asked with a smile without looking back. Ji Shaoi was stunned and immediately scratched his head awkwardly. "You don't have to feel embarrassed. If I were you, I would be scared too. After all, they are all people who can kill you. But you don't have to worry about us at all." Master Jijio smiled faintly, full of confidence in his words. Hearing this, Ji Shaoi's nervous heart finally calmed down. Time passed by little. In the sky above the village, smoke also rose. The aroma of food came to the nose. People who don't know and see all this will really think that this is an ordinary small village. The white-eyed wolf muttered, "Isn't this the life we have always been looking forward to? Like the clouds and wild cranes, carefree." Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. "Don't talk nonsense. This is what you aspire to, not what we aspire to." The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips. "Isn't it boring to live like this?" Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. In a person's life, there were nothing more than two choices. One was to live a vigorous life, and the other was to live a plain life. Many people would choose the former. They thought that if they didn't live a vigorous life, wouldn't they have come to the human world in vain? However, Qin Feiyong preferred the latter. Plain life was a blessing. Of course, everyone had a different understanding of life and life. Qin Feiyong's idea didn't represent everyone's idea. Splash! The old man on the other side suddenly became spirited. He grabbed a fishing rod and pulled hard. A big fish about 1/2 meter long immediately floated out of the water, setting off waves. As expected, there are distinguished guests. "I've never caught such a big fish here before," the old man said with a smile. He carried the fish ashore and shouted, "Old woman, hurry up and clean it up. Let these guests have a taste." An old woman came out of the village. Seeing the big fish she caught, she also beamed with joy. The old man finally looked at Qin Feiyong and the others on the opposite side and said with an apologetic smile, "Gentlemen, I'm sorry for the neglect. Senior, you don't have to be so polite. On the other hand, we juniors have taken the liberty to come and disturb the quiet cultivation of the various seniors." Qin Feiyong also cupped his hands and smiled apologetically. Seeing Qin Feiyong's attitude, Whether it was the old man standing on the opposite side of the river or the other old men sitting in the village drinking tea and playing chess, they all admired him. He was neither arrogant nor impetuous. He was humble and polite. This was a very good first impression. Haha, don't talk about meditation. We are just a group of ordinary old men. The old man on the other side of the river smiled hoarsely and said, "If you don't mind, please come to the village and have a taste of the fish. Deference is no substitute for deference." Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and smiled. Then he led Mu Qing and the others across the river and landed beside the old man. "Please." The old man chuckled, showing his hospitality. "Sorry to disturb you." Qin Feiyong smiled and followed the old man to the village. He glanced around and said with a smile, "Seniors, you really know how to enjoy life. I can't help it. I'm old. If I don't hide, I will definitely be despised by you young people." The old man shook his head and smiled. "Don't say that. Isn't there an old proverb? An old man in the family is like a treasure." Qin Feiyong smiled slightly. "Young man, you really know how to talk." The old man laughed heartily. Qin Feiyong smiled and asked, "I have yet to ask for Senior's name. I wonder if you can tell me?" "Just call me Ji Lao," the old man said casually. During the conversation, under the old man's lead, they entered the village. The other old men in the village also showed kind smiles to them. "Ji Lao, you really need to thank these young friends. Look at you. After being here for so many years, the biggest fish you have caught was only as long as a finger. It's not enough to fill the gaps between our teeth." An old man looked at Ji Lao and teased him. "That's right. Otherwise, how can you say that they are honored guests?" Ji Lao chuckled. He turned his head to look at Qin Feiyong and the others and said, "Let me introduce you all. This is my big brother. You can call him Boss Ji. The others are also our brothers. Ji Lao-san, Ji Lao-san. There is also an old man called Ji Lao-san. He is in the tea garden at the back of the mountain. He will come back when dinner is ready." As for those old women, they are the wives of Ji Lao-san, Ji Lao-san, Ji Lao-san, and Ji Lao-san. They are cooking now. I will introduce them to you one by one at the dinner table. Ji Lao introduced them one by one. Qin Feiyong nodded and bowed. "Greetings, elders. No need to be so polite." Boss Ji waved his hand and smiled. He looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "May I know your name, little brother?" "I am Qin Feiyong. These are my companions." Qin Feiyong didn't hide anything. Although these people didn't seem to know them, it wasn't hard to tell from Ji Shaoi that they knew their identities. Asking them now was just a formality. Ji Lao looked at Qin Feiyong in surprise and said, "So you are the famous Qin Feiyong. Sorry for the disrespect." "Senior, you are too polite." Qin Feiyong waved his hand. Boss Ji suddenly asked, "Little brother, do you know how to play chess?" "Just a little." Qin Feiyong smiled humbly. "Then how about we play a game?" Boss Ji looked at Qin Feiyong with great interest. "As long as you don't mind, I am happy to play." Qin Feiyong smiled. "It is rare for a young man to be willing to play chess with an old man like me. I am more than happy. Why would I mind? Come, come, come. Let's play a game before the dinner is ready." Boss Ji couldn't wait to clean up the messy chess pieces on the board. Qin Feiyong smiled and sat opposite Boss Ji. He helped to clean up. "This doesn't seem right." Seeing this, White-Eyed Wolf's expression was very strange. "Indeed, it doesn't seem right. It is very different from what I imagined." Li Feng nodded. He thought that there would be a fierce battle here, but he didn't expect them to be treated like guests. He didn't even feel any hostility. These old men and women couldn't be planning something in secret, right? Chapter 4089. White-Eyed Wolf and the others couldn't help but be surprised. They couldn't be careless in a place that even the supreme master of the human clan was afraid of. However, Qin Feiyong had been very calm. As the black and white pieces fell, the game between him and Boss Ji officially began. Qin Feiyong's chess skills had always been good. He started learning in the capital when he was a child and could be considered a little genius in chess. But later, after being expelled from the capital, he rarely touched the chessboard and rarely played chess with others. Because he didn't have the leisure time, survival was a problem. Until a few years ago, when he entered the Shun village and met Shen Mulan. Although Shen Mulan's strength was not strong, in terms of chess attainment, he could be said to be the most powerful person he had ever met in his life. In those years when he played chess with Shen Mulan, he basically lost. Similarly, also because he often played chess with Shen Mulan, his chess skills were much better than before. Not long after the game started, Qin Feiyang saw the depth of Boss Ji's chess skills through the way he played chess. In terms of strength, 100,000 Shen Mulans were no match for Boss Ji. But in terms of chess skills, even 10 Boss Jis were no match for Shen Mulan. And Qin Feiyang, although at first he was defeated by Shen Mulan, later, as his chess skills improved, he often won a game. Such chess skills naturally surpassed Boss Ji's. About 100 breaths. Qin Feiyang seized the initiative and pressed on step by step, making Boss Ji feel a great pressure. Even beads of sweat could be seen on his forehead. For Boss Ji, he rarely played chess with outsiders and usually played with Ji Lauer and his brothers. Compared with Ji Lauer and his brothers, his chess skills had always been superior. And because of this, he was very confident in his chess skills. In the beginning, Qin Feiyang agreed to play chess with him, and he also thought that he would win. And in his opinion, young people nowadays were too utilitarian. How could they be proficient in chess? Even if they knew how to play chess, they only knew a little. But he never expected that Qin Feiyang's chess skills were so extraordinary that in just 100 breaths, he was defeated. Beside him, Ji Lauer and the others gathered behind Boss Ji and stared at the chessboard with a solemn expression. This young man's chess skills could simply crush them. Not only was he so talented in cultivation, but he was also so good at chess. For rookies like them, Qin Feiyang's chess skills were godlike. As for the mad scientist and the others, they had mocking expressions on their faces. If he hadn't gone to the Shin family village, Qin Feiyang's chess skills would probably be similar to Boss Ji's. But now, things were different now. Playing chess with him was simply asking for a beating. Of course, in terms of chess, Frenzy and the others were even worse. He probably wasn't even a tenth of Boss Ji, because just like Boss Ji's view of young people nowadays, they were not interested in playing chess at all. If he had the time, he might as well have a good sleep. Another 100 breaths passed. There was a deathly silence. Boss Ji looked at Qin Feiyang, who was holding a chess piece, with a serious expression, because this move was related to the life and death of the entire chess game. As long as the chess piece in Qin Feiyang's hand landed in a crucial position, Boss Ji's side would immediately lose. Therefore, Boss Ji was very nervous. As an elder, losing to a junior was a bit shameful for him. Looking at Qin Feiyang again, he glanced at the chessboard with a confident smile on his face. As long as he wanted to, he could immediately win. However, after glancing at Boss Ji on the opposite side, the chess piece in his hand landed in another position. Not only did this position not end the game, but it also released the suppression on Boss Ji, allowing Boss Ji's chess piece to come back to life. Even because of this move, Qin Feiyang's chess game, which was originally in his grasp, directly fell into a disadvantageous position. What do you mean? The mad scientist and the others looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. He could obviously kill Boss Ji in one move, but why did he let him go? Qin Feiyang didn't understand? Impossible. Such an obvious chess game. Even rookies like them knew where the weak point was. How could Qin Feiyang not know? At the same time, on the opposite side, Boss Ji, Ji Lauer, and the others were also stunned. What was this kid doing? A good move. How could it end up like this? Boss Ji came back to his senses and took a deep breath. Since the opportunity was sent to him, then don't blame him for not being polite. He picked up the chess pieces one by one and changed from defense to offense. After a while, because of the previous concession, Qin Feiyang lost this chess game. Haha, Boss Ji laughed from ear to ear. Old Qin, what are you doing? The mad scientist looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. He was obviously going to win, but he had to play and lose. Wasn't this stupid? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and didn't explain. He looked at Boss Ji and smiled. Senior's chess skills, this junior admires. This sentence, Boss Ji should be happy to hear. But at this moment, he couldn't be happy. He felt that there seemed to be a hidden sarcasm in these words. Actually, Qin Feiyang didn't mock him. It was just a casual, polite sentence. He looked at Boss G and asked with a smile, "Why don't we play another game?" Again? Boss G was stunned. Qin Feiyang smiled. This junior is also a person who doesn't admit defeat. Boss G hesitated. The reason for that was because Qin Feiyang had clearly gone easy on him earlier. If he played again, he was afraid that he would lose miserably. There was a good saying, "Stop when you're ahead, otherwise, you're asking for humiliation." "Senior, don't tell me you don't have the courage." Qin Feiyang chuckled as he packed up the chess pieces. At this moment, his words were obviously filled with provocation. Even the tone of his words had become different from before, with an unconcealable sharpness. "What did you say? No courage? What a joke. Come on then." Boss G snorted coldly. "Boss, forget it." Seeing this, Ji Lauer and the others hurriedly hinted to Boss G. But Boss G was very unhappy and turned a deaf ear to it. He quickly kept the chess pieces on the chessboard and said, "This time, this old man will let you go first? How can an elder let a junior go first? Senior, please go first." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. "All right." Boss G nodded and the chess piece in his hand fell. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and the chess piece in his hand also fell. Following the placement of the chess piece, an austere aura began to pervade the chessboard. Boss G's heart trembled. He felt that the current Qin Feiyang and the previous Qin Feiyang were like two different people. Not to mention anything else, just this murderous aura made him nervous. Immediately after, he picked up a chess piece and after a very serious consideration, he put it down. However, Qin Feiyang's every move was very casual, without any consideration. It was as if the entire game had been deduced in his mind. Moreover, with every chess piece that was placed, the murderous aura became stronger. So much so that after 100 breaths, the entire village was shrouded in a murderous aura. Qin Feiyang's every move at this time was also full of murderous aura. Boss G's face was extremely serious. Could this be Qin Feiyang's true way of chess? Boom! As Qin Feiyang's last chess piece fell, a gust of wind suddenly appeared and the entire chessboard was shattered on the spot. The terrifying murderous aura also rushed towards Boss G. Boss G instinctively retreated and his face turned pale. At this moment, he felt as if there were countless sharp blades flying towards him, sharp and piercing. Boss Ji Lauer and the others hurried forward and looked at Boss G with concern. Boss G's heart couldn't calm down for a long time. It was just a game of chess, but it made him feel as if he had gone through a bloody battle. "Senior, thank you for letting me win." Qin Feiyang stood up and cupped his hands with a smile. The murderous aura that permeated the village also dissipated. Boss G looked at Qin Feiyang, took a deep breath, and asked, "You lost to me on purpose in the first game?" To this, Qin Feiyang smiled but didn't say anything. "In the first game, you lost to me on purpose. In the second game, you started to kill and crush me. This is the so-called peaceful means before resorting to force," Boss G said. Qin Feiyang still smiled and didn't say anything. Peaceful means before resorting to force. Ji Lauer and the others heard this and looked at Qin Feiyang. Was this a hint for them to take the initiative to hand over Ji Shaoi? So that's how it is. Frenzy and the others suddenly understood. It turned out that Qin Feiyang did this for another reason. What a wonderful game. Suddenly, a hoarse laugh sounded. Old 9. Boss G and the others were taken aback and hurriedly looked up. They saw an old man with a purple-clothed youth walking over from the back mountain. Qin Feiyang and the others couldn't help but look up. The old man's aura was ethereal, and he had the demeanor of an immortal. The youth was tall and straight, and his bearing was extraordinary. As expected, this old man was Jiju on the top of the mountain. The purple-clothed youth, needless to say, was Ji Shaoi. It was the first time they saw Ji Shaoi himself, and he looked quite temperamental. An old man and a young man landed in the village. Although Ji Jiao and the others were there, Ji Shaoi couldn't help but feel terrified when facing Qin Feiyang and the others. "Little friend, why don't we play a game?" Ji Jiao walked to the table, and with a wave of his hand, the power of law spread out, and a virtual chessboard gradually emerged. He then looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Old Qin, he is provoking you. Frenzy transmitted his voice. This person is so confident. His chess skills should be quite good. Long Qin frowned. If it was just a normal game, it wouldn't matter. But now, it was obviously an invisible contest. Boss Ji might even be injured when facing Qin Feiyang's attack. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered, and he cupped his hands with a smile. Yes, Master Gio, please. Straightforward. Ji Gio smiled hoarsely, raised his hand and pointed in the air, and a chess piece appeared on the chessboard. With the appearance of the chess piece, the chessboard suddenly turned into an azure battlefield, as if there was a terrifying demon king staring at Qin Feiyang. This strange phenomenon was not only noticed by Qin Feiyang, but also Frenzy and the others, Boss Ji and Ji Shaoyi, who were watching by the side, and they instinctively took a few steps back. Their faces were extremely solemn. Chapter 4090. At the scene, only Qin Feiyang looked as indifferent as ever. Are you here to show me who's boss? He smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, another chess piece appeared on the chessboard out of thin air. The two chess pieces stood opposite each other. It was as if the wills of Qin Feiyang and Ji Gio were colliding, setting off a shocking wave. Sure enough, heroes come from the young. Ji Gio chuckled. You flatter me. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Black and white chess pieces kept appearing. The two were facing each other, and their auras were rolling in all directions. This old man's chess skills are so good? Madman was surprised. Old Gio's chess skills are much better than mine. I'm afraid that even Qin Feiyang is no match for him. Old Gio looked at Ji Gio with expectation in his eyes. That's not necessarily true. Madman sneered. During the conversation, the black and white chess pieces had already met for dozens of times. Qin Feiyang's chess piece was white, and Ji Gio's chess piece was black. The two were fighting back and forth like thousands of troops and horses. It was hard to tell who was the better one. Not bad. You're the first person among the younger generation in the Divine Kingdom who can reach this level of chess skills. However, the chess game is ever-changing. You need to take every step carefully. One wrong step and you'll lose the whole game. Your weakness is that you're too aggressive. Ji Gio glanced at the chessboard and soon found Qin Feiyang's weakness. The black chess piece was placed, and the game suddenly became one-sided. Qin Feiyang smiled without saying a word. Although he was already at a disadvantage in the game, he wasn't nervous at all. White chess pieces kept appearing one after another. At first, Ji Gio thought that victory was already in his hands, but gradually, he seemed to have found something, and his eyes gradually became solemn. On the other hand, the smile on Qin Feiyang's face became even brighter. Boom. Hundreds of rounds passed. The game was instantly reversed. Qin Feiyang, who was originally at a disadvantage and passively defending, directly seized the initiative and launched an attack in the air. This is, Master Ji Gio's eyes widened. On the surface, I was indeed very aggressive earlier. However, that was actually a flaw that I deliberately exposed. Furthermore, it was also a trap that I deliberately set up. In other words, earlier, when you thought that victory was within your grasp, you had already unknowingly fallen into my trap. Now, you don't even have the chance to defend yourself. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. When the white Go stones were placed, the entire Go board instantly turned into a dead end. A trap, Ji Gio murmured as he scanned the chessboard. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find any hope. They had been planning this from the very beginning, just waiting for this moment. He was indeed a terrifying young man. This move is called leading the wolf into the house. I learned it when I played chess with an elder. Of course, there is also a way to break it. Let's just see if Lord Gio can find this last bit of hope in this hopeless situation, Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Inviting a wolf into the house, Ji Gio muttered. Since there was a way to break it, even if there was only a trace of hope, with his attainments in Go, he would definitely be able to find it. Who was the one who said that old Qin was no match for someone? Madman looked at Boss Ji jokingly. Boss Ji coughed dryly, his expression full of embarrassment. Who would have thought that Qin Feiyang's attainments in Go had already reached such a level? He had overestimated old Gio. I see. It was also at this moment, Jijio revealed a look of realization and said with a smile, the so-called leading the wolf into the house is simply more harmful than beneficial. Because as long as the wolf is strong enough, it can eat the person who set the trap. The black ghost stones appeared. The entire Go board suddenly changed drastically. Jijio thought that he had turned the tables, and a victorious smile almost appeared on his face. However, the next moment, he found that although the Go board had changed greatly, his situation had not changed at all. Instead, it was getting more and more disadvantageous for him. It was as if the white ghost stones on the opposite side had become an inescapable net, imprisoning him inside. I forgot to tell you that the so-called chance of survival is also the gate of hell. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and a white ghost stone appeared on the Go board. He chuckled and said, "Inescapable net, done." At this moment, the whole Go board had completely become a dead end, and there was no chance of survival. Inescapable net, Jijio murmured. Looking at the whole Go board, it was as if it was really an inescapable net, cutting off all his hope. Was he going to lose just like that? No. Even if it was an inescapable net, he would definitely be able to find the exit. Jijio slowly closed his eyes. His mind was integrated into the whole Go board. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly, closed his eyes, and his mind surged. Don't you want to give this old man time to observe? Jijio raised his eyebrows. Yes, because there is no unbreakable Go board in the world. Qin Feiyong nodded. This was an exchange of thoughts. The whole Go board turned into a vast world. The chess pieces on the chessboard turned into bright stars. Qin Feiyong and Jijio's minds seemed to be in the sea of stars at this moment, standing opposite each other. What are they doing? Li Feng was surprised. Both of them closed their eyes, and it became quiet in an instant. The two of them communicated with their minds, and the onlookers couldn't hear them at all. They have entered a different state. Long Qin's eyes were filled with wisps of divine light, and it was obvious that he had activated his battle soul. He frowned and said, "Their real battle has just begun." Hearing this, Boss Ji and the others looked at Long Qin in surprise. How could this little girl know so clearly, as if she could see it? This kind of battle seems to be very good. In the endless sea of stars, Jijio looked at Qin Feiyong opposite him and chuckled. I think so too. But since it's a battle, there should be a bet. Qin Feiyong smiled. You want to bet? Jijio was stunned. Aren't you asking the obvious? Apart from Ji Shaoi's Eye of Destiny, what else can tempt me? Qin Feiyong smiled. As expected, you're here for Ji Shaoi. All right. Let this old man see if you have the ability. Jijio took a step forward, and the stars in the sky shook. Ultimate Intense roared out, and a destructive aura surged toward Qin Feiyong. 6 Supreme Laws. Death Edict, Destruction Edict, Space-Time Edict, Time Edict, Nothingness Edict, and Devour Edict. Each of the Ultimate Intents contained a terrifying will of the heavenly Tao. Very strong indeed. Qin Feiyong chuckled. As soon as he finished speaking, the kingdom of life and death appeared. As the will of the heavenly Tao erupted, the world immediately trembled. This is the ultimate intent of the life and death edict, Jijio murmured. Boom. The ultimate intents of the 6 supreme laws erupted like a volcano, and the power to destroy the world blasted out. No law can compete with the life and death edict. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the kingdom of life and death pressed down. Accompanied by an earth-shattering bang, the two were shattered in the starry sky. 1 against 6. This was the power of the ultimate intents of the life and death edict. Strong. Jijio's eyes were solemn. Even for him, this was his first time witnessing the ultimate intents of the life and death edict. This was more than surpassing the supreme laws. It was simply crushing. However, as an existence that even the monarch was in awe of, he had more means. Boom. In just an instant, 8 ultimate profundities appeared above Master Jijio's head, accompanied by terrifying auras. In addition to the 6 ultimate intents that appeared before, the other 2 ultimate intents were the Life Edict. The ultimate intents of the Life Edict turned into a divine lotus, which not only exuded a majestic life energy, but also a great divine power. However, the other ultimate intense was a law that Qin Feiyang had never seen before. It was a world of darkness and light. It was like hell and heaven, with devils on one side and angels on the other. The aura it exuded was not inferior to the ultimate intense of the space-time edict. Looking at this ultimate intense, Qin Feiyang's eyes were full of surprise. You haven't seen it before? That's true. Even if you can fuse the death and life edict, you may not be able to fuse the light and darkness edict, Jiju said. The light and darkness edict? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. That's right. This is the light and darkness edict after the fusion of the light and darkness edict. Although it is not comparable to the life and death edict, after the fusion of the two ordinary light and darkness edict, it can evolve into an ultimate law. Jiju waved his hand, and the 8 ultimate intents of the 8 ultimate intents charged toward Qin Feiyang with earth-shattering power. So that's how it is. The light and darkness edict can be fused, Qin Feiyang murmured. He had never heard of this before, and he had never seen it in the sky cloud realm. But thinking about it, it made sense. Although the lethality of the light and darkness edict was far less than the life and death edict, it was definitely not easy to fuse two edicts. For example, the death and life edict were both comprehended by Qin Feiyang by chance. Boom! The kingdom of life and death reappeared. The power of life and death roared like a raging wave and blasted out. Accompanied by a deafening loud noise, the kingdom of life and death shattered on the spot in the face of the 8 ultimate intents of the 8 ultimate intents. Qin Feiyang, who was standing in front of the chessboard, immediately overflowed with purple gold dragon blood from the corner of his mouth. What? Old Qin is actually injured? Seeing this scene, Frenzy exclaimed. White-eyed Wolf, Li Feng, Long Qin, and Mu Qing also had a look of disbelief. With Qin Feiyang's current strength, how could he not be a match for Jiju? What's going on? Boss Ji and the others looked at each other with a trace of surprise in their eyes. However, looking at the purple gold dragon blood at the corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth, their hearts were also incomparably complicated. This was the descendant of the little girl of the Divine Kingdom in the Sky Cloud realm. The descendants of the purple gold Divine Dragon clan couldn't be compared at all. In the world of consciousness, the battle was still ongoing. After the 8 ultimate intents shattered the kingdom of life and death, they aggressively rushed toward Qin Feiyang. It seems that the greatest limit of the ultimate intents of the life and death edict is to fight 1 against 6. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Compared to the nervous Frenzy and the others, he was as if nothing had happened. 1 against 6, still not satisfied? Jiju frowned. Of course I'm satisfied. However, if that's all you've got, then you should admit defeat as soon as possible. Qin Feiyang smiled. Is that so? Then let this old man see your true strength. Jiju's face revealed a look of anticipation. Chapter 4091. As you wish. Qin Feiyang took a step forward. Strands of power of law surged out like a tide. Time law, cause and effect law, life law, death law, and destruction law. Finally, it was the law of life and death. What? Jiju's face changed on the spot. In addition to the law of life and death, he had mastered so many ultimate laws. When he fought with the king before, didn't this kid master the ultimate laws of life and death law, life law, and cause and effect law? When did he master the ultimate profundities of the laws of destruction and the laws of time? What a terrifying young man. How long had it been? His strength had skyrocketed again. Boom. The ultimate laws of the two collided again. The kingdom of life and death was 1 against 6. Death law, life law, time law, cause and effect law, and destruction law. 5 ultimate laws. Such destructive power was comparable to 11 ultimate laws. As for Jiju, he only had 8 ultimate profundities. How could he block all of Qin Feiyang's ultimate profundities? With a loud rumble, a scene of destruction was displayed. Jiju's 8 ultimate laws could completely contend with the power. Puff. Outside, Jiju, who was standing in front of the stone table, also spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. What? Old Jio is also injured? Boss Ji and the others were shocked. and their faces were full of worry. However, Madman and the others looked at the blood Gigio spat out, and their eyes were full of shock. It was purple gold dragon blood. In other words, Gigio was a purple gold divine dragon. Since he was a purple gold divine dragon, why didn't Qin Feiyang feel the kinship of blood thicker than water? They immediately looked at Boss Ji and the others. These people claimed to be brothers. In that case, they were all purple gold divine dragons? We must have entered the dragon's nest. Long Qin murmured, "Aren't you also a divine dragon?" White-eyed wolf laughed secretly. "How can I be the same as them?" Long Qin glared at the white-eyed wolf and said in a deep voice, "Don't forget an important point. These people are the purple gold divine dragons. Even the supreme beings of the human race have to respect them. Moreover, even the monarch trusts them so much. They might even have 3,000 incarnations." Hearing this, the mad scientist, white-eyed wolf, Li Feng, and Mu Qing's eyes trembled. That was probably a possibility. If it was a one-on-one battle, Qin Feiyang could rely on the law of life and death to put up a fight. But if they ganged up on Qin Feiyang, and if all the old people in this village really had 3,000 incarnations, then even Qin Feiyang, who had grasped the laws of life and death, wouldn't be a match for this group of people. This was because if 15 old men activated 3,000 clones together, that would be a total of 45,000 clones. As for Qin Feiyang's 3,000 incarnations, how could they possibly defend against 45,000 incarnations? Not to mention a battle. Just thinking about it made their scalps go numb. In the world of consciousness, the battle was getting more and more intense. The heaven and earth formed by the chessboard began to collapse. If you were born in my purple gold divine dragon clan, you would definitely become the pride of our entire clan. Gigia's face was full of admiration, but then he shook his head and said, "But if you want to defeat us and take away Ji Shaoi, you will never be able to do so." As his voice fell, 3,000 identical people appeared behind him. 3,000 incarnations. Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. The appearance of 3,000 incarnations was enough to prove that Gigio was a purple gold divine dragon. Just like the mad scientist and the others, since the other party was a purple gold divine dragon, why couldn't he feel it? Because we have deliberately sealed the aura of the purple gold dragon blood. Gigio seemed to see the doubts in Qin Feiyang's heart and said in a hoarse voice, "Why do you want to do this?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "First, because we want to keep a low profile. I believe you have also noticed that there are many villages near this mountain range. We can't let them know our true identity. Second, we know you will come, so we want to see your character." Gigio said lightly, "You know I will come?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. This was a bit unexpected. Although we old antiques don't care about worldly affairs and live in seclusion all year round, it's not difficult for us to predict your arrival. You kidnapped Jiang Yunshuang and the others and took away their battle souls. Besides, since you have already found Jiang Yunshuang and the others' battle souls, you must have also found Ji Shaoi's battle souls. So you must have asked Mu Qing to use the all-seeing eye to find Ji Shaoi's whereabouts. This is also why we asked the monarch to leave Ji Shaoi here. On one hand, it was to protect him, and on the other hand, it was to lure you here, Jiju explained. I see. It seems that the truly terrifying person in the divine kingdom isn't the monarch, the divine king, the supremes of the human race, or the supremes of the other races, but the people in your village. Qin Feiyang smiled. No, we are not terrifying. The truly terrifying one is the Central Dynasty. The Central Dynasty is your greatest enemy. Jiji's eyes flashed. You know about the Central Dynasty? Qin Feiyang was surprised. I know a little. Jiju nodded. Tell me. Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with anticipation. He had always been puzzled by the Central Dynasty. So mysterious, what kind of place was it? Moreover, he had a premonition that the Central Dynasty would be his greatest obstacle in killing the sovereigns. There are some things that I have to uncover on my own. Besides, this old man doesn't know much. But there is one thing that this old man can tell you. If you can't even defeat us old guys, then you don't have the strength to shake the Central Dynasty at all. Jiju smiled faintly. Then I'll defeat you first. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly, and his 3,000 clones appeared. Boom! Ultimate intents appeared one after another, destroying heaven and earth. Looking at this scene, Jijio smiled wryly. In terms of individual strength, this old man is truly inferior to you. No, in the entire Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan, human race, and divine race, no one is your match. In that case, do I have the qualifications to fight against the Central Dynasty? Qin Feiyang asked. No, unless you can defeat all the old guys in the village, Jiju said. Outside, Boss Ji and the others suddenly closed their eyes. The moment they closed their eyes, a group of people appeared beside Master Jijio in the world of their minds. What's going on? Madman was surprised. Not good. They're all going to help Jijio. Longqin's expression changed. What? Madman and the others turned pale. When they came back to their senses, White-Eyed Wolf said in a deep voice, "Let's go help." No. To enter Qin Feiyang's mental world, we first need to be summoned by Qin Feiyang and get his permission before we can enter. But now, he's not summoning us. This means that he doesn't want us to take the risk. Longqin shook his head. Risk? Li Feng frowned. That's right. There's also danger in a battle of wills. If Qin Feiyang is killed by the other party in the world of consciousness, then his consciousness will disappear. I don't need to tell you the consequences of losing consciousness. You should be clear about it. Longqin's eyes were gloomy. What kind of joke is this? 10 old antiques going to deal with a junior? Don't you have any shame? Old Qin, let us go in and help. Madman roared. Losing one's consciousness was equivalent to losing one's life. At the same time, seeing the mental world of Boss Ji and the others, Qin Feiyang frowned. Old Jio, what do you mean by this? You want us old guys to join forces to bully a junior? If this spreads out, how are we going to face others in the future? Boss G looked at old Jio unhappily. Big brother, don't make it sound so easy. Okay? Take a look for yourself. The ultimate law of life and death, plus the ultimate law of 5 ultimate laws. Who can be his opponent? Old Jio smiled bitterly. If he could defeat this kid, he wouldn't have asked them to help. Boss G looked at Qin Feiyang opposite him. 3,000 incarnations had already activated their ultimate law. Among them, the law of life and death was the most dazzling. Because their aura was too terrifying, it was hard not to see it. Is the law of life and death really that strong? A black-haired old man walked out. He was the 10th brother of the 10 brothers, known as Old Jio. Boom! As he took a step forward, 3,000 incarnations were activated. One ultimate law after another appeared, and the divine aura of heavenly Tao shrouded all directions. He also has 3,000 incarnations. Qin Feiyang was shocked. Could it be that these 10 brothers really have 3,000 incarnations? Moreover, in addition to the 3,000 incarnations, this old Jew also mastered the ultimate law of 8 ultimate laws. Among them was the law of light and darkness. What kind of terrifying old monsters were they? Let this old man have a taste of it. Old Jew's eyes turned cold. 24,000 ultimate laws instantly turned into a torrent that swept across the starry sky and charged toward Qin Feiyang. Boss Ji and the others also held their breaths as they stared at this scene. Qin Feiyang suppressed the shock in his heart and turned to look at the 3,000 incarnations with a smile. We can't disappoint these old seniors. The 3,000 incarnations laughed. Boom! The ultimate ultimates floating in the air immediately unleashed a world-destroying godly might as they charged forward. In terms of numbers, Oljia's ultimate laws were far more than Qin Feiyang's. 8 ultimate profound meanings, 24,000 of them. Qin Feiyang's 6 ultimate laws, a total of 18,000. However, the powerful 3,000 law of life and death could fight one against 6. In other words, just the 3,000 kingdoms of life and death could withstand 18,000 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. In the blink of an eye, rumble, accompanied by a series of earth-shaking explosions, the torrents formed by the 2 ultimate laws finally met. A destructive aura roared in all directions. Cracks immediately appeared on the chessboard's world. Then, it began to crumble and fall. Outside, The chessboard suspended between Qin Feiyong and Jijio was also rapidly cracking, and the black and white chess pieces on it were shattered one by one. Damn it! Bullying with numbers. What a bunch of old bastards. Looking at this scene, the frenzied one, the white-eyed wolf, and Li Feng were burning with anxiety. If the other party didn't have 3,000 incarnations, that would be fine. But if the 10 brothers all had 3,000 incarnations, then Qin Feiyong would definitely die. Chapter 4092. More importantly, they wanted to help, but Qin Feiyong didn't summon them. They could only watch. Boom. The world of consciousness was about to be destroyed. Ji Laoshi spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out like a meteorite. The 3,000 clones he had activated were all shattered. So powerful. Ji Laoshi, Boss Ji, and the others were all shocked by the power of the kingdom of life and death. As expected, if it was a one-on-one fight, none of them would be a match for Qin Feiyong. They had to work together to suppress him. The 10 of them looked at each other. In the next moment, in the void behind them, 3,000 identical people appeared at the same time. Seeing this scene, Qin Feiyong was greatly alarmed. They all had 3,000 clones. How terrifying! Was this the true power of the purple gold divine dragon race? Any one of the 10 old men was more powerful than the monarch and heavenly Lord Ji. Even if all the people around him were here, they would not be a match for these 10 super experts if they joined forces, let alone him. Do we still need to fight? Jiju looked at Qin Feiyong and asked. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. No wonder the king left Ji Shaoi here. What other place could be safer than here? However, he had to get Ji Shaoi's battle soul. The importance of the Eye of Destiny was obvious. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and looked at the 10 elders. Seniors, please tell me how to give the Eye of Destiny to me. Impossible. Jijio shook his head. Qin Feiyong clenched his fists and said angrily, Seniors, you're all smart people. An unevolved Eye of Destiny is useless. I don't need to tell you how powerful the Eye of Destiny is. Can you bear to see such a powerful battle soul go to waste? We know how powerful the Eye of Destiny is. If you don't want to waste it, you can give your Eye of Destiny to Ji Shaoi. Ji Shaoi is quite talented. He'll be able to use the Eye of Destiny after he fuses with it. Jiju said. Qin Feiyong frowned and asked, Then may I ask, what is Ji Shaoi's character like? Not bad. Master Jiju said after a moment of silence. Qin Feiyong frowned and said, Can I understand the word not bad as ordinary? Yes. Jiju nodded. All right then. Now, let me tell you about Dong Zhengyang's character. Qin Feiyong said. Dong Zhengyang? The 10 of them were suspicious. Dong Zhengyang is the other owner of the Eye of Destiny. In this life, I, Qin Feiyong, rarely admire others, but Dong Zhengyang is one of them. Qin Feiyong recounted everything that Dong Zhengyang had done over the years in detail, including Mu Qing's scheme against Dong Zhengyang. A moment later, after Qin Feiyong finished his narration, the 10 of them fell silent. Compared to Dong Zhengyang's character, Ji Shaoi was really not worth mentioning. However, who didn't want the people around them to have the strongest battle soul? If Ji Shaoi's Eye of Destiny could evolve, the strength of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan would definitely increase by another level. Dong Zhengyang is willing to sacrifice all his interests for the sake of the big picture. Furthermore, he is a man who prioritizes the common people and is willing to repay evil with good. Perhaps Ji Shaoi's talent is stronger than Dong Zhengyang's, but we have to see their character to determine the owner of the strongest battle soul. I can guarantee with my head that Dong Zhengyang is not a selfish person. But what about Ji Shaoi? Seniors, can you guarantee that he is not selfish? The Eye of Destiny has a heaven-defying power. If it falls into the hands of a selfish person, can you imagine what kind of disaster it will bring? Qin Feiyong was trying his best to persuade them. No matter what, they had to obtain the Eye of Destiny. They couldn't let it fall into the hands of a selfish person. The 10 of them pondered for a while before old Ji nodded and said, What you said makes sense. However, even if Ji Shaoi is selfish, we can still restrain him. Restrain him? You can restrain him now because he hasn't grown up yet. But what about the future? When he becomes as strong as you in the future, will will you still be able to restrain him? Qin Feiyang laughed coldly. The 10 of them frowned. Sigh. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply and shook his head in disappointment. I thought that you were all reasonable people. However, it seems like you're just, I might have to change my view of the purple gold divine dragon clan. Rascal, don't be so presumptuous. If we want to kill you now, no one can save you. Old G raised his brows. Yes, I admit that. However, even if you can kill me, I will make you pay a heavy price. We can try if you don't believe us. Qin Feiyang's eyes glinted coldly. Old G's gaze turned cold. Old G, don't be like this. No matter what, he's still a descendant of the purple gold divine dragon clan. There's no need to make things so difficult. Old G stopped Old G and looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile. How about this? We won't participate in this matter. Let Dong Zhengyang and Ji Shaoi fight for it themselves. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked at Old Ji and said, I'm all ears. As you said, character is the most important thing. Let's test their character. In the end, the Eye of Destiny will belong to whoever has the better character. Old Ji said, I see. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. This method is fair and just. I think it'll work. Then the battle will end here. The meal is almost ready. Let's discuss it while eating. What do you think? Old Ji asked. As you wish. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. It seemed that these old people weren't that unreasonable. Outside, as the last chess piece was crushed, the motionless Qin Feiyang finally opened his eyes. Old Qin, little Qin Z, Qin Dage. Crazy Z and the others immediately surrounded him. Their faces were full of concern. Don't worry. The problem has been solved. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled. How can we not be worried in such a situation? You're really. The other party already called for help, but you didn't call for us. Crazy Z glared at Qin Feiyang unhappily. Qin Feiyang smiled awkwardly. On the other side, Old Ji and the others opened their eyes one after another. Crazy Z looked up at the 10 of them and snorted. Fortunately, Old Qin is fine. Otherwise, I'll tear down your lousy village. Haha, young people are too arrogant. Old Ji laughed. Crazy Z rolled his eyes. Old Ji turned his head to look at the wooden building and shouted, Old woman, are you done? We're going to starve to death. Hurry up. Okay, you guys tidy up. The old woman's voice came from inside. Come, help me tidy up. Old Ji called out. Old Ji looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, How do you break this inescapable net? He was still very concerned about this problem. He thought that he was quite accomplished in chess, but he didn't expect to lose to a junior. The inescapable net seems to be unsolvable, but it's actually very easy to break it. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. How do I break it? Old Ji looked at Qin Feiyang expectantly. You can imagine the inescapable net as a fishing net. How do you break a fishing net? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Fishing net? Old Ji was stunned and lowered his head to ponder. Isn't it easy to break a fishing net? Just cut a network cable, and a hole will appear in the fishing net. Crazy Z said faintly. That's right. Old Ji was enlightened. He looked up at Qin Feiyang and asked, From what you said, you can break the inescapable net by removing a chess piece? That's right. Qin Feiyang nodded. Old Ji smiled bitterly and sighed. I really didn't expect that the method to break it would be so simple. Sometimes it's like this. It seems very complicated, but it's actually very simple. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. I've learned a lot. This old man also willingly lost this game of chess. However, how can a young man like you have such superb chess skills? Old Ji was suspicious. It's all thanks to an old man. Back in the sky cloud realm, when I comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, I entered an inconspicuous small village. There was an old man in the village who was about to die. By chance, I helped him extend his life. Although his strength was not as good as yours, Old Ji, his chess skills were quite good. In those decades, I played chess with him every day and learned a lot from him. It was like inviting a wolf into the house. The inescapable net was also his true inheritance. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. So that's how it is. Old G smiled and exclaimed, I really didn't expect that there would be someone with such superb chess skills in the Sky Cloud realm. I really want to see it. As long as the Sky Cloud realm and the Divine Kingdom reconcile, there will definitely be a chance. Qin Feiyang smiled. Okay, okay. Hurry up and eat. While they were talking, the dishes had already been served. There were more than a dozen dishes on the big table. But apart from a large bowl of fresh fish soup, the rest were the most common wild vegetables in the mountains. However, this was the life of returning to simplicity. Grannies, you've worked hard. Qin Feiyang looked at the 5 old ladies. Little guy, you're overstepping your seniority by calling us grannies. Even you has to call us great-grannies. Since you're Yu-Er's descendant, I'm afraid you'll have to call us great-grannies. One of the old ladies smiled kindly. Yu-Er? Qin Feiyang was stunned. You still don't know who Yu-Er is? The group of old people looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Yu-Er is your ancestor, the little princess of our divine kingdom. Her full name is Ji Tianyue. Old Ji smiled. So it's the ancestor. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. You're an interesting descendant. You don't even know the name of your ancestor. Old Ji looked at Qin Feiyang mockingly. Qin Feiyang smiled awkwardly. He didn't care about these questions before. Chapter 4093. Don't just talk. Eat your chopsticks. Another old lady got up, took a spoon, and personally poured a bowl of fresh fish soup for Qin Feiyang and the other 4. This made them feel a little flattered. She was too enthusiastic. She didn't treat them as outsiders at all. No. To be exact, it was as if they were her own descendants. Great-grandmother. We can do it ourselves. Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. He was really not used to it. Here, don't treat yourself as outsiders, and don't be so restrained. The old lady said with a smile, Yes, since we have lived in seclusion here, not to mention outsiders, even the descendants of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan have never come to visit us old guys. You are the first. The other 4 old ladies also had a kind face. These words made Qin Feiyang and the others feel particularly embarrassed, because their original plan was not to visit these old people at all, but to find trouble. Don't just stand there. Try it. The old ladies urged. Okay. Qin Feiyang and the others nodded, picked up their small bowls, took the soup spoons in the bowls, and tasted it carefully. The fish soup was particularly fresh, and the fish was also particularly tender, melting in the mouth. It's delicious. Long Qin's eyes lit up, and she finished it in a few mouthfuls. She looked up at the old ladies and said with a smile, Great-grandmother, I want more. It's good that you like it. I'm just afraid that you young people are used to eating delicacies outside and don't like our home-cooked dishes here. An old lady chuckled and personally poured another bowl for Longqin. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at Longqin strangely. This woman was really familiar with them? The word great-grandmother came out of her mouth more smoothly than Qin Feiyang. What are you talking about? Only home-cooked dishes can taste like a monk. Let's talk about it later. Great-grandmother, the dishes cooked by you are really delicious. Longqin chuckled and then hurriedly said, I don't mean to flatter you. How obedient. Whoever marries you is really lucky. The old ladies loved Longqin very much. Obedient? The white-eyed wolf scoffed. You didn't see how she was like when she flipped out. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call her a tigress. You have a problem with it? Longqin stared at the white-eyed wolf. I don't dare. Who dares to have a problem with you? The white-eyed wolf pouted. Longqin looked at the old ladies with an aggrieved expression and said, Great-grandmother, look, he's always bullying me. The old ladies looked at the white-eyed wolf unkindly and said, Little guy, don't be so ungrateful. White-eyed wolf was stunned. What did he mean by that? Why did they have to talk about this? If you miss this kind of girl, you won't be able to find one in the future. A few old ladies said, Ugh. The white-eyed wolf was completely speechless. Did these old ladies think that he had some sort of ambiguous relationship with this stinky woman? Longqin's cheeks turned red when he heard that. He didn't expect such a misunderstanding to occur. Madman rolled his eyes and laughed. Oh, great-grandmother, you have good eyesight. You can tell at a glance. As she spoke, she winked at the few old ladies. The old ladies looked at Madman's expression and were stunned at first. Then, they came to a realization. He was asking them to set up the white-eyed wolf and Long Cheen. Madman, don't talk nonsense. The white-eyed wolf and Long Cheen couldn't help but stare at Madman when they heard that. Did you see that? Where else in the world can you find someone with such tacit understanding? Madman bared his teeth. Long Cheen's face darkened. Why was it getting worse? How interesting. Boss G shook his head and smiled. It's good to be young. G Lauer and the others also had a smile on their faces. Swish. But at this moment, a figure appeared in the sky. Everyone was stunned. They looked up at the same time and were stunned. The Lord? Why did this person come over? Ji Shaoi asked the Lord to come. At that time, you and Boss G were fighting in the mental world. We were worried about you, so we didn't stop him. Madman transmitted his voice. Ji Shaoi. Qin Feiyang looked at Ji Shaoi, who was sitting next to Ninth Master Ji, and his eyes flashed. Then, he looked at the Lord. He stood in the air and looked down at the joyous scene below. His expression was also extremely astonished. Didn't they say that the situation was critical and asked him to come and help? But now, why was it like this? This didn't look like an enemy at all. It was more like a family gathering together for the new year. Little Wang, why are you standing there in a daze? Since you're here, let's eat together. Boss G smiled. Little Wang? Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other. The Lord actually let others call him by his nickname, and he didn't look angry at all. How interesting. Okay. The Lord nodded instinctively. When he came back to his senses, he regretted it a little. Would it be inappropriate for him to stay on such an occasion? After all, Qin Feiyang and the others were still the enemies of the Divine Kingdom. As the Lord, how could he sit with these people and eat peacefully? However, since he had already agreed, he could only bite the bullet and come down. After coming down, he looked at Ji Shaoi in confusion. Ji Shaoi also had a wry smile on his face. The situation at that time was indeed on the verge of a crisis. But who would have thought that in the end? The group of people sat together to eat and chat, talking and laughing. Even people like Long Cheen and Madman, who had nothing to do with the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan, called her great-grandmother. I'll go get the bowls and chopsticks. An old woman stood up. Second young mistress, there's no need to go through so much trouble. The Lord hurriedly said, How are you going to eat without bowls and chopsticks? Are you going to eat with your hands? The second young mistress glared at him, and the Lord immediately lowered his head like an obedient child. When Qin Feiyang and the others saw this scene, they couldn't help but laugh in their hearts. The Lord of the Divine Kingdom also had such a difficult time. Ahem. The Lord coughed and sat next to Boss G. Sit over there. Boss G pointed to Qin Feiyang's side. Obviously, he intended to let the Lord and Qin Feiyang sit together. The Lord walked to Qin Feiyang with a long face and sat down next to him. He was extremely depressed. Couldn't they see that there were outsiders here? Couldn't they save him some face? Where would his dignity be in the future? Qin Feiyang turned to look at the Lord and said with a smile, Lord of the Divine Kingdom, it's really true that we can sit together and eat? Haha. The Lord put on a fake smile and secretly stared at Qin Feiyang, as if to say, Don't take advantage of these old people's support. Qin Feiyang chuckled and gave the white-eyed wolf and Frenzy a look. The two of them understood. Frenzy looked at Boss G and the others and chuckled. Great-grandfathers, it's rare for us to gather together. Wouldn't it be a bit disappointing if there's no good wine? Great-grandfathers? The Lord's face darkened. Who gave you the courage to call these old people like that? But the point was that Boss G and the others were very happy, which made him feel helpless. It is indeed a bit disappointing. Ji Laosher nodded. When it came to wine, his eyes seemed to be shining. The white-eyed wolf also noticed Ji Laosher's abnormality and hurriedly took out a dozen jars of unparalleled divine wine. He handed one to Ji Laosher and smiled. Great-grandpa, this is for you. Ji Laosher looked at the white-eyed wolf in shock. This kid really knew how to climb up the ladder. Originally, he was still a little dissatisfied with Qin Feiyong and the others. But now, seeing the white-eyed wolf's attitude, the dissatisfaction in his heart disappeared. He happily took the jar of wine and opened it. The smile on his face became even wider. Divine wine. For people of his level, other than divine wine, no other wine could enter his eyes. The white-eyed wolf then gave Boss G and the others a jar of divine wine each. He was no longer as arrogant as before. He looked like an obedient child. Even the Lord was impressed in his heart. These kids really knew how to make people happy. When he compared them to Ji Shaoi, he couldn't help but feel angry. Why was he standing there like a block of wood? Could he learn from Qin Feiyong and the others? Let's eat. The second young mistress walked out with a set of chopsticks and handed it to the Lord. She then looked at everyone and smiled. My lord, have a drink. The frenzy and the white-eyed wolf also sat next to Qin Feiyong. They were very close to the Lord and immediately began to work together to criticize the Lord. I don't drink. The Lord waved his hand. You don't drink? Why do I remember that you used to drink often and have a good tolerance for alcohol? Boss G looked at the Lord suspiciously. Grandpa, can you not embarrass me? Moreover, that's the past. I'm the Lord now. How can I drink so much? The Lord was helpless. So what if you're the Lord? So what if you're the Lord? Moreover, are there outsiders here? Moreover, the juniors respect you. Why are you still acting like this? You're so shy. If you're not used to being here, then hurry up and get lost. Boss G's face darkened. When Qin Feiyong and the others heard this, they looked at the Lord who was livid and their faces turned red. Ordinary people wouldn't have the chance to see the Lord being scolded. Okay. I'll drink. Please calm down. The Lord quickly surrendered. He glared at the frenzy and the white-eyed wolf and said with a fake smile, Thank you for thinking highly of me. I'm an old man. That's not right. The white-eyed wolf put down the wine glass with a look of dissatisfaction. What's wrong? The Lord frowned. Was he trying to find fault again? Boss G and the others also looked at the white-eyed wolf suspiciously. That's definitely not right. How are the great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers related to you? The white-eyed wolf asked. Nonsense. Everyone knows that they're my grandparents, the Lord said angrily. That's right. In front of your grandparents, you call yourself an old man. Is that right? The white-eyed wolf asked. The Lord was stunned. How could he find fault with that? Kid, you're an expert at finding fault. There's indeed something wrong with your words. In front of us old men, you call yourself an old man. Then, where do you put us, the real old men? Ji Laosher nodded. Lord Tin, can you not join in the fun? The Lord had a bitter feeling in his heart. Couldn't he tell that the golden-winged wolf king and the frenzy were teaming up to attack him and humiliate him? Chapter 4094. You said something wrong and you won't let others say it? Ji Laosher raised his eyebrows. No. It's my fault, it's all my fault. The monarch hurriedly waved his hand. The white-eyed wolf laughed and said, Since the monarch already knows his mistake, then be self-conscious and punish yourself with 3 jars. What? 3 jars? The monarch was stunned. Yes. For a person of your status, if you only punish yourself with 3 cups, it's purely a humiliation to you. Don't worry, we have enough divine wine. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. The monarch's face was dark as he stared at the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf didn't care. He smiled and took out 3 jars of divine wine, placed them in front of the monarch, and said with a smile, It's the rules of the underworld, please. You win. The monarch snorted coldly. Holding a wine jar, he got up, raised his head, and gulped it down. This is a family banquet. You can't use your divine power to refine the alcohol, otherwise, it will be disrespectful to your great-grandparents. The lunatic said. Hearing this, the monarch was so angry that he was about to go crazy. How can you drink like this? Seeing this, the second young mistress wanted to stop them. Don't bother about them. Ji Laosher stopped her. The second young mistress looked at him suspiciously. Do you think we can't see that these two guys are deliberately targeting Xiaowang? But this is good. Although they are full of gunpowder now, when they drink too much later, they will definitely put their arms around each other's shoulders and call each other brothers. Ji Lauer laughed secretly. That's true. The second young mistress nodded. There was nothing between men that a glass of wine couldn't solve. If they could take this opportunity to solve the feud between Qin Feiyang and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, it would be a merit. So, the few old ladies didn't ask anymore. Not only did Boss Ji and the others not ask, but they also joined in the fun. Now that the atmosphere had reached this point, Qin Feiyang was too embarrassed to refuse. He also drank one cup after another. As expected, in the end, the white-eyed wolf and the madman chased Qin Feiyang away and sat on the left and right of the king. The three of them put their arms around each other's shoulders and called each other brothers, completely letting themselves go. Ji Laoshi also ran to Qin Feiyang's side and sat down. He shook his head and asked, Feiyang, tell me honestly, which generation of little Qing's descendant are you? Even the way they addressed him had changed. Qin Feiyang was not drunk yet. Although he didn't like drinking, he still had a decent amount of alcohol. Furthermore, he didn't drink much. After pondering for a while, he looked at Ji Laoshi and said, Great-grandfather's generation, grandfather's generation, father's generation. I can be considered the fourth generation. You're already a fourth-generation descendant? Then wouldn't there be many descendants of little Qing in the Sky Cloud realm? Ji Laoshi was surprised. There used to be quite a lot. Because the Qin clan is the royal family of the Great Qin dynasty. For example, my father, as the emperor of the Great Qin dynasty, had 3 palaces and 6 courtyards and many children. Qin Feiyang smiled. What do you mean by this? Ji Laoshi was taken aback. Several old ladies also looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. When I was young, I was too vicious and killed many brothers and sisters. But now, I still have several brothers and sisters. I guess they are all married now, and even have many children and grandchildren. Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. Don't blame yourself. I can see that you are a kind and righteous child. Those who died in your hands must be people who deserve to die. Moreover, who isn't young and frivolous? Back then, your grandfather, was also lawless. Ji Laoshi patted his chest and said proudly, Don't talk about your past. Back then, you were an unfilial descendant. It was only later that you slowly restrained yourself after you got married and established a family. Also, he is the 4th-generation descendant of Little Qing. In front of us, he is already the 6th generation. No, the 7th generation. But before old Ji finished speaking, Ji Laoshi waved his hand and said, Who cares which generation he is? Anyway, he is our descendant. In the future, you can call us great-grandfather and great-grandmother, okay? Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Since the elders said so, what else could he say? The next day, after Qin Feiyang woke up, he found himself lying on an unfamiliar bed. Mu Qing was also beside him, but he had not woken up yet. He was wearing a pair of big pants, sprawled on the ground, and reeked of alcohol. It seemed that he was also very drunk. Lying down was fine, but when he got up, he suddenly felt a pain in his head as if it was being torn apart. The divine wine is still on my head? Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead. No matter how good the wine is, it will go to the head if you drink too much. A kind voice sounded. The second young mistress walked in with 2 sets of clean clothes in her hand. She handed one of them to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang took the clothes in a daze. These were not his clothes? He quickly looked down at himself. It turned out that he was only wearing a pair of big pants like Mu Qing. Don't be embarrassed. In my eyes, you are just a little kid. The second young mistress shook her head and laughed. She put the remaining set of clothes neatly on the cabinet beside the bed and said, When this little guy wakes up, ask him to put it on. Okay. Qin Feiyang rubbed the back of his head and laughed dryly. Looking at Qin Feiyang's silly look, the second young mistress couldn't help laughing and said, You rest for a while. I'll cook some porridge for you drunkards. Thank you, great-grandmother. Qin Feiyang quickly thanked her. You're welcome. Treat this place as your home. The second young mistress smiled and turned to walk out of the room with a kind smile. My home, Qin Feiyang whispered. He didn't expect to meet such a group of kind old people. They really gave him a strong sense of belonging. He picked up the clothes in his hand and sniffed them. A smile appeared on his face. There was no smell of alcohol. Instead, there was a hint of fragrance. Obviously, the second young mistress washed them for him. This reminded him of the scene when his mother washed and cooked for him when he was a child. It was heartwarming. My head hurts. At this time, Mu Qing's voice sounded. Qin Feiyang turned his head and saw Mu Qing pressing her forehead and slowly getting up. Wake up. Qin Feiyang smiled. Mu Qing was stunned. She looked up at Qin Feiyang. Seeing Qin Feiyang sitting next to her and only wearing a pair of big pants, she couldn't help but shiver. Then, he looked at himself again. He was also only wearing a pair of big pants. His face suddenly changed and he said angrily, "What did you do to me?" Moreover, he also dragged the quilt and wrapped himself tightly, as if guarding against a wolf. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. This kid's imagination was too rich. I'm not interested in men. Rolling his eyes, Qin Feiyang got up and quickly put on his clothes. He looked at Mu Qing speechlessly and said, "Your clothes are on the side." Mu Qing looked at the clothes on the cabinet next to her and frowned. What happened? I don't know either. They were all drunk, but the clothes were sent by my great-grandmother. She should have helped to wash them, Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. Hearing this, Mu Qing grabbed the clothes and put them on the tip of her nose to smell the fragrance. She was a little stunned for a moment. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang didn't understand. I haven't smelled this smell for a long time. It's just like when my mother washed my clothes for me when I was young. I miss it so much. Mu Qing murmured. A mist of tears appeared in her eyes. Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing silently for a moment, nodded and sighed. Yes, I miss it so much. Mu Qing wiped away her tears, put on her clothes, and said with a smile, "What do you feel about the old people in this village?" Comfortable, warm. There's a sense of belonging. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Not to mention you. Even I have this sense of belonging. It's a pity that I'm not a descendant of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. What happened yesterday was just a dream. Mu Qing shook her head and sighed. To be honest, she was quite envious of Qin Feiyang. In the Sky Cloud realm, there were relatives like the Feather Emperor and the Princess of the Divine Kingdom. In Great Qin, there were great-grandfathers, grandfathers, parents, and brothers. Now, in the Divine Kingdom, there were these people who shared the same bloodline. But what about him? Apart from his ancestors, he had no relatives around him. Qin Feiyang was silent for a moment and said with a smile, "Don't think like that. As long as you're willing, we're all your relatives." Hearing this, Mu Qing looked up at Qin Feiyang and was stunned for a long time. She snorted coldly and said, "Don't be narcissistic. Who's willing to be your relatives?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. It seemed that this drink not only eased the conflict between him and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan, but also completely let Mu Qing let go of the past. This drink was worth it. Mu Qing put on her clothes and shook her head. But then again, this drink was a little risky. Risky? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. Mu Qing nodded and said in a low voice, "If they wanted to harm us, we would have become corpses when we were drunk yesterday." Qin Feiyang smiled in realization and said, "Aren't we fine now? This means that they really don't have any malicious intentions towards us." Mu Qing said with a smile, "Yes, put yourself in their shoes. They're so kind to us. We can't be rash. Let's go and wash up. Let me tell you, you should really feel honored. It's the first time I've drunk so much wine since I was born." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Oh, I thought it was something else. Honored? How about I spoil your appetite? With your little alcohol tolerance, I can kill you in seconds." Mu Qing looked at him with disdain. The two of them walked out of the room, talking and laughing. They immediately saw 10 old men sitting at the entrance of the village, drinking tea and chatting leisurely. "Good morning, great-grandfathers." Qin Feiyang waved and smiled. "Good morning?" The 10 old men turned to look at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing, and then looked at the sky and said speechlessly, It's already noon. Is it still early? It seems that you're not awake yet. Ah. Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing quickly looked up at the sky. The sun was indeed hanging in the sky. Mu Qing kicked Qin Feiyong and looked at the 10 old men embarrassedly. He whispered, "This is a little awkward. If you're awkward, why did you kick me?" "That's not it. There are people who woke up later than us." Qin Feiyong glared at him angrily. Mu Qing was stunned and quickly scanned the village. He really didn't see the white-eyed wolf, the lunatic, or the monarch. They should still be sleeping soundly, because the three of them drank the most yesterday. The error-free chapters of Immortal God of War will continue to be updated on the hand-fighting bar. There are no advertisements on the website. Please bookmark and recommend the hand-fighting bar. Chapter 4095. The two of them walked to the river and washed their faces. The cool river water and fresh air made them feel refreshed. Mu Qing smiled and said, "If one day I can live in such a place with my wife and children by my side, how good would that be?" "You also yearn for such a life?" Qin Feiyong looked at Mu Qing in surprise. He had always thought that Mu Qing wanted a life of luxury and luxury. He didn't expect that he would have such a feeling now. Who doesn't yearn for such a life? Fighting for fame and fortune is just a dream when I was young. Now, it's long past that time. Mu Qing shook his head. Qin Feiyong was stunned. It turned out that this was Mu Qing's true side. Qin Feiyong looked up at the sky and said with a smile, "This day will come sooner or later. When the time comes, we old guys will also get together and drink tea and chat when we have nothing to do. Won't life be happy?" "How old are you, and you're already thinking about enjoying your old age?" Boss Ji and the others, who were sitting at the entrance of the village, couldn't help but roll their eyes when they heard the conversation. Qin Feiyong turned to look at the group of people and shook his head with a smile. "Although in your eyes, we are still children, in fact, we are not young anymore." Mu Qing also said, "If it were ordinary people at our age, we would have many children and grandchildren. Unfortunately, you are not ordinary people. You have the strongest fighting soul, so you must bear the responsibility of protecting the world." Boss Ji said, "That's right. Isn't there a saying that goes like this? The stronger the ability, the greater the responsibility." Boss Ji chuckled. "Responsibility," Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing murmured. If possible, they really didn't want to bear such a big responsibility. But there was no other way. After all, fate had chosen them. The two of them walked to a group of old people. Boss Ji poured 2 cups of tea and looked at the two of them with a smile. "This tea has the effect of sobering up. Try it." "Okay." The two of them nodded. At this moment, the door of another wooden building opened and Ji Shaoyi walked out, reeking of alcohol. But when he saw Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing at the entrance of the village, his expression immediately stiffened. Then, without saying anything, he ran to wash up. Qin Feiyong took a sip of the tea and lowered his head to ponder. Suddenly, he looked at Boss Ji and the others and asked, "Great-grandfathers, what we talked about yesterday, right? A man's words carry enormous weight." "Of course they count." "Boss Ji." Qin Feiyong heaved a sigh of relief. He was afraid that they wouldn't keep their word the next day. However, thinking about it, this group of elders wasn't the kind of people who would go back on their word. He asked, then, "Have you thought about how to test them?" "I just woke up. How would I have time to think?" Qin Feiyong looked at the group of old men expectantly. "For the sake of fairness, we can't let Ji Shaoyi and Dong Xingyang know about this test first." Boss Ji looked at Ji Shaoyi, who was squatting by the river, and said secretly. After a while, Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing listened for a moment and nodded. "We agree. We'll start after lunch. As long as you don't have any objections. Anyway, this time, the opportunity is equal. It depends on their own luck and choice." Boss Ji sighed. "Okay." Qin Feiyong nodded and said with a smile, "Boss Ji, when will you take me to your tea garden?" "You're interested in tea too?" Boss Ji was stunned. "A little. I mainly want to learn about tea culture." He was not being modest. He said it deliberately, because he did not want Boss Ji to know that he was obsessed with tea. Otherwise, Boss Ji would definitely guard against him like Long Chun did. He also wanted to see if there was a chance to take away a few tea trees. Okay, when the test is over, I'll take you to the tea garden and explain it to you. Boss G chuckled. He did not suspect anything. He still did not know Qin Feiyong well enough, because if he did, he would never dare to take him to the tea garden. Where's Longqin? Why don't I see her? Mu Qing glanced at the village suspiciously. Boss G chuckled and said, This girl got up early in the morning and is helping your great-grandmother's cook. It seemed that he approved of Longqin very much. She's helping to cook? Mu Qing was stunned. Qin Feiyong was also surprised. This was simply unprecedented. Yes. Is there a problem? The 10 old men looked at them in confusion. Of course there's a problem. Mu Qing nodded and said, She's being, ahem. But at this time, Qin Feiyong coughed hard and interrupted Mu Qing. Mu Qing was stunned and couldn't help but shudder. It was a close call. He almost exposed the identity of Longqin. What are you doing? Boss G and the others looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. Nothing. Maybe I drank too much wine and my throat is a little uncomfortable. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, picked up the teacup, and secretly glared at Mu Qing. He'd better be careful with his words. Mu Qing also held the teacup and secretly smiled at Qin Feiyong. Boss G turned to look at Mu Qing and asked, What did you say about the girl in Longqin? Mu Qing laughed dryly and said, She's a rich young lady and has never done these things. I'm thinking, is the food she cooks edible? So it's like this. I thought there was some secret. Boss G shook his head and laughed. Mu Qing also laughed. A big man actually speaks ill of others behind their backs. At this time, Longqin came out with 2 side dishes. She looked like a good girl who could go to the hall and the kitchen. Did you hear me? Mu Qing was a little embarrassed. There's nothing wrong with my ears. Longqin snorted and put the 2 side dishes on the table. She said proudly, Don't look down on me. Look at these 2 side dishes. I cooked them myself. Don't you feel that they look, smell, and taste good? Cooked by yourself? Are you sure? Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing didn't believe it. They got up and ran over. Regardless of the presence of the elders, they reached out to grab the side dishes and put them in their mouths to taste. Seeing this, Boss G and the others looked at each other and smiled. These little guys really didn't have any rules at all. How could they grab it with their hands? However, this seemed to be friendly. There was no sense of restraint. It also showed that these guys had completely integrated here and didn't regard themselves as outsiders. How is it? Longqin looked at Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing. Not bad. The 2 savored for a while and nodded. The taste was indeed good. They really didn't know that this woman had such ability. Are you sure you cooked it? Qin Feiyong was doubtful. Of course. Longqin nodded and turned away proudly. Unexpected, too unexpected. Qin Feiyong shook his head. It seemed that he had to get to know this woman again in the future. Ancestor. After washing up, Ji Shaoi came to Boss G and the others and bowed. Yes. Boss G nodded and pointed at Qin Feiyong and Mu Qing. He smiled and said, In fact, we don't have the right to criticize you. But for your own good in the future, you really have to learn more from them. Learn from them? Ji Shaoi looked at the 2 who were still sneaking and couldn't help but frown slightly. How could they do this in front of the elders? Generally speaking, their behavior is indeed a little impolite. But you have to know that there are no outsiders here. If you are polite, it will seem a little estranged. Let's not talk about other things. Think about it. Aren't you also so unrestrained when you are with your parents? Ji Laosher laughed hoarsely. Ji Shaoi was silent. Indeed, whether it was when they were young or when they grew up, as long as they were with their parents, they would often reach out their naughty little hands and steal the dishes on the table. Although their parents would scold them, they would still dote on them the most. Now, Qin Feiyong and the others were here. They didn't feel restrained at all when they were with these elders. It was as if they were back at home, and they could do whatever they wanted. However, facing these elders in front of them, Qin Feiyong and the others could do it without restraint, but he really couldn't do it, because he was too clear about the identity and strength of these elders. It was as if a mountain was pressing on his head. He didn't dare to be so willful at all. Seriously. At this moment, He really admired Qin Feiyang and the others. Facing these terrifying elders, there was no pressure at all. Are you still eating? If you continue eating, there won't be any left later. Longqin came out with 2 side dishes. Looking at Qin Feiyang and the others who were eating with relish at the table, he suddenly shouted angrily. This was outrageous. Did he still think that they were children? Ha! There's no other way. Who asked you to cook so well? The 2 laughed dryly. Hearing these compliments, Longqin's expression became much more pleasant, and he was a little complacent. True enough. To conquer a man, one had to conquer his stomach first. What's delicious? Suddenly, accompanied by a suspicious voice, White-Eyed Wolf and Lunatic came out from another small building. The bandits have come out of their lair. Longqin muttered. White-Eyed Wolf, Lunatic, come here quickly. There's big news. Mu Qing waved his hand. What news? The 2 rubbed their aching foreheads and walked over with the smell of alcohol. Mu Qing bared his teeth and said, Look, this is Longqin's dish. You didn't expect that she actually knows how to cook. Really? The 2 suddenly stared at Longqin as if they had discovered a new continent. You haven't seen the world. Longqin snorted coldly and stared at the 4 of them. I'm warning you, don't eat secretly anymore. After saying that, he turned and walked into the kitchen. You told me not to eat secretly, so I won't eat secretly? White-Eyed Wolf stretched out his hand sneakily, picked up a piece of wild vegetable and stuffed it into his mouth. His eyes suddenly lit up and he nodded. It's really good. Really? Then I have to try it. Lunatic was skeptical. If you said that Longqin was rude, he would believe it. But if you said that she cooked, it was a little unbelievable. This group of kids, looking at this scene, Ji Laosher and the others looked helpless, but their faces were full of smiles. Some old people were more serious and had to follow the rules and everything, but they were more easygoing old people. Not only did they not dislike it, but they liked this casual and harmonious atmosphere. Chapter 4096. In other words, the way to get along depends on the person. If you were so unrestrained in front of a serious person, it would naturally cause the other party to be dissatisfied. Similarly, if you were polite and cautious in front of a more easygoing person, it would also cause the other party to be uncomfortable. Therefore, this way of getting along was also a skill. After lunch, the monarch woke up. The first feeling he had when he woke up was that his head was about to explode. Yo, little brother Wang, you're awake. The White-Eyed Wolf immediately looked at the monarch and grinned. The monarch's full name was Ji Yunwang. The monarch's face suddenly darkened as he stared at the White-Eyed Wolf angrily and said angrily, Little Wang is something you can call? You have no respect for your elders. So heartless. Yesterday you called me Brother Wolf. The White-Eyed Wolf sighed sadly. Did I? The monarch looked at everyone in a daze. Yes. Boss Ji and the others nodded. The corner of the monarch's mouth twitched. Drinking was indeed a waste of time. Thinking about yesterday, we put our arms around each other's shoulders. Ba. It's not like we're in cahoots. What are we doing? It should be said that we felt like old friends at first sight and regretted that we didn't meet earlier. In the end, when you woke up, you turned your back on me. It's really disappointing. The White-Eyed Wolf shook his head and sighed, looking very distressed, which made the monarch gnash his teeth in anger. The madman looked at the monarch and bared his teeth. Little brother Wang, how about we continue? Scram! The monarch shouted angrily. Still drinking? If he continued to drink, who knew what kind of joke he would make? As the monarch, he couldn't afford to lose face. The second young mistress looked at the monarch kindly and smiled. I left some food for you. Go wash up first and eat quickly. Thank you, second young mistress. The monarch smiled. Boss Ji looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Then let's begin. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded. Begin? The monarch was slightly stunned and looked at the 2 of them suspiciously. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and Dong Xingyang appeared. Immediately, Dong Xingyang became the center of attention. Everyone looked at him curiously. Dong Xingyang himself was a little confused. What was going on? However, very soon, He felt a sense of disgust and rejection from the depths of his soul. Old enemy. His heart trembled, and he immediately scanned the crowd. Finally, his gaze locked onto Ji Shaoi. Meanwhile, Ji Shaoi also clearly felt a sense of disgust from Dong Zhengyang. When old enemies met, it was destined that only one of them would be favored by fate. But he didn't know if it was Dong Zhengyang or Ji Shaoi. The king frowned and looked at Boss Ji and the others in confusion. He asked, "What are you doing?" Ji Laoshi said, "We've already come to an agreement with Qin Feiyang. The two of them will have a fair fight, and neither side will help the other. Whoever emerges victorious will control the Eye of Destiny." "What?" The monarch stood up abruptly and said angrily, "How can you treat such an important matter as child's play?" "This is not child's play. We are all serious," Ji Laoshi said solemnly. "Ninth Master." The king hurriedly looked at Ninth Master. "This is also my intention." Ninth Master looked at the king and said. The king's expression froze. Why did it become like this? Moreover, they didn't even discuss such an important matter with him. When Ji Shaoi and Dong Zhengyang heard this, they couldn't help but be stunned. Using a duel to determine the owner of the Eye of Destiny? It seemed like child's play. However, Dong Zhengyang knew Qin Feiyang well. Since Qin Feiyang made such a decision, there must be a reason. Boss Ji looked at Ji Shaoi and Dong Zhengyang and asked, "Do you have any opinions about this matter?" "Ancestor, Ji Shaoi wanted to say something but stopped. "If you have something to say, just say it." Boss Ji said, "Okay, then I'll say it. I don't agree with your decision. Why should our fate be at your mercy? At the very least, you should have told us about this matter in advance." Ji Shaoi said angrily, "Aren't we discussing this with you? If we really wanted to control you, why would we need to ask for your opinion now? If you don't agree, we won't force you." Boss Ji said. Ji Shaoi fell silent. The 10 old men looked at each other and then at Dong Zhengyang. Dong Zhengyang looked at Ji Shaoi and then at the 10 old men and said with a smile, "I trust Qin Feiyang." It was just a simple sentence, but it made the 10 of them sigh with emotion. This was the difference. Dong Zhengyang and Qin Feiyang weren't related by blood, but the trust between them was more than anything. They looked at Ji Shaoi again. Although Ji Shaoi was their descendant, he didn't trust them at all. From this, one could see the nature of the two. Dong Zhengyang was more reliable. Boss Ji said lightly, "Ji Shaoi, you can take your time to think about it." "There's no need to think about it. I don't want to." Ji Shaoi shook his head. "You don't have the courage to fight? Or you don't have the confidence to defeat Dong Zhengyang?" Boss Ji frowned. "You have the ability to protect me. Why should I fight him? Are you all on these outsiders' side?" Ji Shaoi said angrily. The king's expression changed, and he shouted, "Don't be rude." "Haha." Boss Ji laughed loudly, looked at Ji Shaoi and said, "You're right. Yes, we do have the ability to protect you. But why should we protect you?" "Because I'm your descendant," Ji Shaoi said matter-of-factly. "What a good bloodline." "It's also a matter of course. But let me tell you, nothing in this world can be taken for granted. Protecting you is out of kindness. Not protecting you is out of duty." As a direct descendant of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan, you don't even have the courage to face the enemy head-on. Do you think such a person is worthy of our protection? Boss Ji was furious, his face full of disappointment. Ji Shaoi lowered his head and clenched his fists. "If you have the courage, guts, even if you lose this battle and lose the Eye of Destiny, we will keep you by our side and nurture you with all our might. With us nurturing you personally, you won't lose to the other prodigies, even if you don't become the strongest person in the Divine Kingdom in the future. But your current performance is really disappointing. The Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan has always been bold and never hide behind others. You're the first. You've really brought honor to the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan." "Fine. We won't force you. From now on, you can do whatever you want. Everything has nothing to do with us." Boss Ji waved his hand, his eyes full of coldness. If Dong Zhengyang was very strong and made you fear him, it would be reasonable. But now, no one knew exactly how strong Dong Zhengyang was, yet he had chosen to retreat directly. Wasn't this the behavior of a coward? How valuable could such a person be? Sigh. Boss Ji sighed. He was also disappointed. Compared to Dong Zhengyang, who was calm and composed, Ji Shaoi was indeed much weaker. Just this point alone was enough to determine the owner of the Eye of Destiny. Apologize. The king glared at Ji Shaoi. Angering this group of elders was equivalent to angering the entire Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. At that time, one word from them would be enough to make you unable to make a comeback. Although he was also a little dissatisfied with the elders' decision, Ji Shaoi's performance was indeed disappointing. Ji Shaoi was at a loss. There's no need to apologize. Actually, this is the first test for you all. Boss Ji waved his hand and looked at Dong Zhengyang and Ji Shaoi. Test? The two were stunned. That's right. It's a test of your courage and courage. The difference between the two of you is like heaven and earth. One of you is calm and has unconditional trust in the people around you. The other is hysterical and complaining. So the outcome of this first test has already been decided. Boss Ji sighed. Dong Zhengyang was enlightened. However, when Ji Shaoi heard this, he was stunned. So this was a test and not a real duel. If he had known earlier, he would not have been afraid. However, if he had known earlier, what was the point of this test? Ji Shaoi knew that this could not go on. He asked, "What's the second test?" This was because these elders were already very disappointed in him. If he did not take the initiative to perform, he would really be abandoned. He did not dare to imagine the outcome of being abandoned by these elders. These elders' status in the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan was so high that even the king had to be respectful. As long as they said something, the king would not dare to help him even if he wanted to. When that happened, he would undoubtedly become an abandoned pawn. Without the protection of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan, he might not even be able to keep his life against Qin Feiyang and the others, let alone the Eye of Destiny. After all, it was too easy for Qin Feiyang and the others to deal with him. Aren't you unwilling? Why are you asking so many questions? Ji Shaoi frowned. Ji Shaoi lowered his head, his face full of regret. The king could not bear to see him like this. He smiled and said, "Second grandfather, please give him another chance." Ji Shaoi raised his eyebrows and snorted. "I've already said that this is a test. If we continue now, what's the point of this test? The test must be carried out without the knowledge of the person involved." Yes. I understand. However, Ji Shaoi might have been a little flustered before this and lost his composure. The king smiled apologetically. Yes. This time, regardless of whether this is a test or not, I will accept it. Ji Shaoi nodded hurriedly. Is that so? Ji Shaoi looked at him. Yes. Ji Shaoi nodded. All right. Since you insist, then let's have a real duel. Ji Shaoi said. A duel? Ji Shaoi was stunned. He thought that this was some other test. He did not expect them to really have a duel. You don't dare? Ji Shaoi frowned. Ji Shaoi looked at the king. What are you afraid of? Show me some backbone. The king shouted. Ji Shaoi glanced at Dong Zhengyang and gritted his teeth. He looked at the group of old men and nodded. All right, I'll duel with him. Ji Shaoi's eyes flashed as he said, the rules are as follows. You are not allowed to use your sovereign divine weapon, activate your ultimate intent, or harm your opponent's life. All right, Dong Zhengyang nodded. However, Ji Shaoi could not help but frown. He said in confusion, you can't even activate your sovereign divine weapon or ultimate intent, and you can't even harm your opponent's life. How can this be considered a duel? We have our own ideas. You just have to do as we say. Ji Shaoi waved his hand and a 10,000 zhang barrier appeared in the sky. He said indifferently, let's begin. Chapter 4097. Dong Zhengyang took a deep breath and stepped into the barrier. Ji Shaoi stared at Dong Zhengyang, murderous intent flashing in his eyes. A terrifying aura exploded as he charged into the barrier. Without a word, he threw a punch at Dong Zhengyang. You really can't wait. Dong Zhengyang smiled faintly. He didn't dodge and countered with a palm. Boom. The fist and the palm collided with a loud bang, and a terrifying aura suddenly rolled out like a tide inside the barrier. I won't give you the eye of destiny. So, you have to lose. Ji Shaoi roared. A shocking force exploded and surged toward Dong Zhengyang like a flood. Dong Zhengyang was shocked. The strength of his physical body had already reached the supreme level. Under the condition that he couldn't use the ultimate Upanishad and the Dominator's divine weapon, the body and strength at the supreme level were still a great trump card. Fall. Ji Shaoi roared. I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Dong Zhengyang shook his head and smiled. Boom. Similarly, a terrifying power surged out from the center of his palm. The two forces collided. Both of them groaned and retreated. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. What? The toughness and strength of your physical body have already reached the level of a supreme being? Ji Shaoi's eyes were filled with disbelief. We both have the eye of destiny. If you can do it, why can't I? Dong Zhengyang smiled faintly. Good. I want to see how capable you are. Ji Shaoi's face sank. The power of laws was activated. Among them were the death and destruction edicts, two of the strongest laws. The remaining four were ordinary laws. With a thought from Ji Shaoi, the ultimacies appeared one after another. Since he couldn't activate his ultimacy, the ultimacies were his strongest means. 2 supreme profundities of supreme profundities and 4 ordinary profundities of supreme profundities. In the sky cloud realm, such strength could be called a super powerhouse. There weren't many people in the sky cloud realm who had 6 ultimacies. Therefore, even if he could not activate the ultimate meaning, the strength that Ji Shaoi had displayed could not be underestimated. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang, Madman, Li Feng, and Long Qin couldn't help but worry. This was because they were not clear about Dong Zhengyang's strength. Back then, the friendly match began. The demon ancestor, Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, and the other Dark Guard commanders had used the friendly matches to improve their strength. However, at that time, Dong Zhengyang did not participate in the battle because the old enemy had not appeared. Furthermore, he did not make any moves during normal times. Therefore, Dong Zhengyang's strength was still a mystery. Don't underestimate him, he is very strong. Mu Qing appeared to be very confident. Before he could finish speaking, Dong Zhengyang raised his hand and waved it. The power of law rolled out. Amazing! Looking at these laws, Qin Feiyang and the others couldn't help but feel shocked. There were 6 in total. Similarly, he also had 2 supreme laws of nature. They were respectively the law of destruction and the law of space-time. Boom! And as Dong Zhengyang waved his hand, the 6 supreme laws of nature appeared one after another, exuding a destructive power. This is a draw again? The king frowned. The two's physical strength and power were on par, and the power of their laws of nature were also on par. It would not be easy to determine the winner. He couldn't help but glance at Boss Ji and the others. What were these old men planning? For people like Dong Zhengyang and Ji Shaoi, the ultimate laws and the sovereign divine weapon were the key to determining the winner. But now, the ultimate laws and the sovereign divine weapon were all forbidden. There must be something hidden here. However, the 10 old men, including the 5 old ladies, all had unfathomable looks, making him completely unable to figure them out. Even on the faces of Qin Feiyang and the others, he couldn't see the slightest clue. Inside the enchantment, the battle between the two had already reached its climax. Ji Shaoi was like a ferocious beast, his killing intent astonishing. Dong Zhengyang faced it calmly, countering each move as it came. This was a well-matched battle. Could it be that the test this time is their combat ability and battle awareness? The king frowned. In a well-matched situation, only combat ability and battle awareness could determine the winner. In other words, the one with the stronger combat ability and higher combat awareness would be the one who would win in the end. Time passed quietly. Injuries of varying degrees began to appear on the two's bodies. Blood splattered everywhere. In comparison, Dong Zhengyang was still calm and at ease. But Ji Shaoi was extremely irritable, and his face was rather ferocious. Boom! Not only did he use the ultimate laws, but he also used the supreme-level heaven-defying techniques that he had mastered and attacked Dong Zhengyang crazily. That was a completely unscrupulous attitude. Crack! rumble. The void of the enchantment was already fragmented. The collision between the two was like a thunderbolt, shaking the sky. It seemed that Ji Shaoi's fighting spirit and aura were stronger than Dong Zhengyang's. However, as outsiders, Qin Feiyang, Boss Ji, and the others could clearly see that Ji Shaoi was gradually falling into a disadvantageous position. Because Ji Shaoi was too impatient, Dong Zhengyang, on the other hand, was as steady as a mountain. The most taboo in a battle was to be impatient, especially in a situation where their strength was evenly matched. For a person who was anxious for success, it would be best if he could quickly finish off the other party. However, if he could not take down the other party, he would slowly become impatient. An impatient person would make a lot of mistakes no matter what he did, which would lead to failure in the end. As expected, facing the steady Dong Zhengyang, Ji Shaoi's signs of defeat became more and more obvious. This made him even more anxious. He was already going all out, so why couldn't he defeat the other party? The other party was just blindly defending. I refused to accept this. The irritation in his heart almost made him lose his mind. It was also at this moment Dong Zhengyang seized the perfect opportunity and landed behind Ji Shaoi, slapping his palm toward Ji Shaoi's back. Oh no! The king's eyelids twitched. At the same time, Ji Shaoi also turned pale with fright as he hurriedly threw a backhand punch. How much strength could he exert in a hurried attack in a panic? Dong Zhengyang glanced at Qin Feiyang below and decisively withdrew some of his strength. Boom! The fist and the palm met. Ji Shaoi's arm was immediately torn, and his whole body flew out like a meteorite. He crashed into the barrier in front of him and blood gushed out of his mouth. If Dong Zhengyang had not withdrawn some of his strength, this blow would have been enough to shatter Ji Shaoi's body. I lost? Ji Shaoi half knelt in the void and muttered to himself. Yes, I won. Dong Zhengyang nodded. Although their strength was about the same now, it was too easy for Dong Zhengyang to deal with Ji Shaoi. To put it bluntly, an impatient person was not worthy of being his opponent. No, I haven't lost yet. Can't use the sovereign divine weapon, can't activate the ultimate profound, and can't stop. That's a joke. Ji Shaoi roared hysterically and looked up at Dong Zhengyang, his face full of hatred. As the power of death rolled out, the ultimate profound, the 18 layers of hell, appeared and blasted toward Dong Zhengyang with monstrous killing intent. Ji Shaoi, no. The king saw this and hurriedly shouted. However, Ji Shaoi turned a deaf ear, his eyes full of killing intent. Qin Feiyang looked at the 15 old people and said with a smile, great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers, their character is now obvious. Sigh. The 15 old people sighed one after another. Character? The king looked at Qin Feiyang and the others in surprise. These are the people you taught. Ji Lauer glared at the king and waved his hand. Dong Zhengyang, who was about to die under the 18 layers of hell, immediately appeared outside the barrier. Don't go, Ji Shaoi roared. The 18 layers of hell blasted toward the barrier, and a violent aura erupted. However, the barrier did not shatter. Dong Zhengyang stood outside the barrier, unscathed, and looked at Ji Shaoi sympathetically. Ji Shaoi could not help but go crazy when he saw this. Fight me to the death if you have the guts. As he roared, he attacked the barrier as if he had gone mad. However, this barrier was condensed by the power of law and contained the will of the heavenly path. How could he break it with his strength? Ji Shaoi, calm down. The king shouted coldly. He had already realized the real purpose of this test. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to control me? You're helping outsiders to deal with your own people. Are you worthy of being the king? Ji Shaoi had completely lost his mind since he dared to insult the king. The king's face suddenly darkened. This child was really unteachable. Ji Jiu sighed and said, in fact, this duel is not a test of victory or defeat, but of your character and character. Character? Character? Dong Zhengyang was suspicious. That's right. We don't care about your strength. We're not bragging, and we're not taking advantage of our seniority. Even if you've mastered 4 or 5 ultimate profundities of the ultimate laws, you're still nothing to us. Moreover, in our eyes, there's no difference between a genius and an ordinary person. Even if you're an ordinary person, we can still nurture you into a genius. Jiju said proudly. No one dared to refute this. This was because these old people did have the ability to do so. The Eye of Destiny has a heaven-defying ability. If it meets a person with a good character, the Eye of Destiny can save and protect the world. However, if it meets a person with a bad character, the Eye of Destiny will bring destruction and disaster to the world. Therefore, in the first test, we will be testing your courage and courage. If you don't have courage and courage now, how will you have the courage to face powerful enemies and protect the world in the future? Of course, the second test is the most important. Only with a good character will he be willing to sacrifice himself. Jiju said, That's right. Dong Zhengyang, we've all seen what you've done before. You could have crushed Ji Shaoi's body and completely defeated him, but you didn't do so. At that time, this old man noticed that before you withdrew your strength, you glanced at Qin Feiyang. I think that you must have taken into consideration the relationship between Qin Feiyang and our Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan, so you did not attack ruthlessly. Am I right? Jiju looked at Dong Zhengyang and smiled. Yes. Dong Zhengyang nodded. After all, he was a member of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. Even if he did not give face to the monk, he still had to give face to the Buddha. It's not hard to see that you're a young man who cares about the big picture. Courage, and character. Without a doubt, you're the best choice. Therefore, you're the best candidate for the Eye of Destiny. Jiju smiled. Thank you for your recognition, seniors. I'll work hard. Dong Zhengyang bowed to salute. You don't have to thank us. You fought for this. I also hope that you can maintain this heart in the future. Don't let us down. Jiju smiled. I can't guarantee anything else, but I can guarantee that if the world is in trouble, I, Dong Zhengyang, will definitely stand at the front. Dong Zhengyang smiled. Good. The seniors were gratified. They didn't forget to glare at the monarch as if to say, See? This is the difference. Teach the juniors in the clan properly. Don't let them be like Ji Shaoi. What can they do? The monarch smiled bitterly. So this was the true meaning of the test. Chapter 4098. If the two tests were graded, Dong Zhengyang's performance in both the first test and the second test would be full marks. On the other hand, Ji Shaoi. It would be an exaggeration to say that he failed. His performance was simply unsatisfactory. The monarch knew that the outcome was set. The Eye of Destiny belonged to Dong Zhengyang. No one could change the elder's decision. In the sky, Ji Shaoi also heard what Boss Ji and the others said. He stood in the boundary, dumbfounded. As it turned out, the purpose of this test was not to see who won or lost. Why? Why didn't they tell him earlier? Although he had already realized that his performance was barely satisfactory, he was still unconvinced. Dong Zhengyang was clearly an outsider who had nothing to do with this. Even though Qin Feiyang had the purple gold dragon blood, he did not belong to the purple gold divine dragon race. Therefore, for both public and private reasons, these old people should be helping him. Actually, when he came to the village, he had always thought that these elders would help him snatch the Eye of Destiny. After all, he was a direct descendant. There was no reason for them to help an outsider instead of him. However, he did not expect these elders to ask him to hand over the Eye of Destiny. This caused his heart to be filled with resentment. Why should I? Since you are so heartless, don't blame me for being heartless. You want the Eye of Destiny? Dream on. The Eye of Destiny will never evolve. It will be destroyed along with me. Ji Shaoi looked at Qin Feiyang and the others below and laughed savagely. A destructive aura surged from his body. Self-destruction. He did not have the ability to escape. He did not have the ability to fight Qin Feiyang and the others either. Therefore, he had the thought of destroying everything and disappeared with the Eye of Destiny. No. Dong Zhengyang's expression changed. Stubborn. Boss Ji and the others were not the only ones. Even Master Ji could not help but be furious. Even if he lost, he had to lose with dignity. Such hysteria was simply a disgrace to the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. Whoosh! He suddenly stood up. In the next instant, he appeared in the boundary. You dare to come in? then go to hell together. Ji Shaoi snickered. You. Master Ji Jio's face was full of contempt. In the blink of an eye, it had shattered Ji Shaoi's chi-si and forcibly stopped the self-detonation. Ah! Ji Shaoi howled miserably. Master Ji Jiu looked at him coldly. At first, he couldn't bear it, but now, he didn't deserve his sympathy at all. Divine might surged forth, firmly imprisoning him. Immediately after, he lowered his head to look at Dong Xingyang and said, "You come up." Obviously, he wanted to personally help Dong Xingyang and take away Ji Shaoi's fighting soul. Dong Xingyang nodded and entered the barrier. Boom! His strongest fighting soul, the Eye of Destiny, was immediately activated. These old men are really cute. The white-eyed wolf grumbled. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. He clearly distinguished between gratitude and grudges, treated people sincerely, and was worthy of their respect. Ancestor, please, give me another chance. This time, I promise that I won't disappoint you again. Ji Shaoi looked at Master Jiju in horror. He really didn't want to lose the Eye of Destiny. He didn't want to lose the title of being the chosen one of the Divine Kingdom, because this was his greatest pride. I've already given you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Master Jiju shook his head coldly. Grandpa, please help me, I beg you. Ji Shaoi looked at the monarch in despair. Grandfather? Qin Feiyang and the rest were stunned, looking at the monarch in surprise. The monarch and Ji Shaoi were grandfather and grandson? Ji Shaoi's grandfather, Ji Yunhai, is Xiaowang's biological brother. As for Ji Yunhai, I believe all of you are familiar with him. Second young mistress sighed at the side. Ji Yunhai. Of course not. Frenzy snorted coldly. Ji Yunhai was the executioner who destroyed Hell, Frenzy's life and death enemy in his previous life. How could he not be familiar with such a person? However, the relationship between Ji Yunhai and the monarch surprised him deeply. They were biological brothers. Furthermore, judging from this relationship, Boss Ji was Ji Shaoi's grandfather. Because Boss Ji was the monarch's grandfather. Since he was the monarch's grandfather, he was naturally Ji Yunhai's biological grandfather. In this way, they were indeed direct blood relatives. But even in the face of direct blood relatives, these elders still helped Dong Zhengyang. This greatness was truly admirable. Sigh. Looking at Ji Shaoi's cry for help, the monarch sighed helplessly. Didn't he think about who he was facing now? This was Master Jiju. Among the 10 brothers, although Master Jiju was ranked 9th, he was the strongest in terms of strength and prestige. It could be said that Master Jiju's words could decide the fate of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. Even the monarch didn't dare to disobey. Moreover, you only have yourself to blame for this. Previously, these elders said that as long as you were willing to admit defeat, even if you lost the Eye of Destiny, they would stay here and personally nurture you. Being able to stay by the side of these 10 elders was something countless descendants of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan didn't even dare to dream of. But you? The opportunity was right in front of you, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Who can you blame? Of course, you can only blame yourself. Soon, Ji Shaoi's Eye of Destiny was stripped away. The 2 eyes of destiny started to merge. Ji Shaoi also seemed to have lost all his strength. He gradually became paralyzed in the void. His hair was disheveled, and his gaze was unfocused. There was no sign of life. Taking away his fighting soul was equivalent to taking away his future. If he was the one who obtained the Eye of Destiny now, he would definitely soar. Whether it was in terms of status or identity, even Ryuko probably wouldn't be able to compare to him. However, if he lost the Eye of Destiny, his status and influence in the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan would be even lower than now. This huge gap made him lose all hope in life. Even if he could survive now, he would only be a joke. Why is the heavens so unfair to me? He clenched his fists tightly. His nails pierced his skin, and purple gold dragon blood dripped continuously. All of a sudden, he raised his head and looked at Dong Zhengyang, who was merging his Eye of Destiny. It's all your fault. It's you who made me lose everything. I swear that I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. As he finished speaking, Ji Shaoi charged toward Dong Zhengyang crazily. Although his sea of vital energy was shattered, his divine soul could still be used as a means of attack. However, seeing this scene, Ninth Master Ji's eyes were filled with killing intent. The situation was not good. The monarch hurriedly stepped into the barrier and slapped the back of Ji Shaoi's head. Ji Shaoi groaned and fainted on the spot. Then, he looked at Ninth Master Ji and bowed. Ninth Master Ji, please show mercy. After all, he's still our direct descendant. Ninth Master Ji raised his eyebrows. The monarch continued, don't worry. When we return to the clan, I'll tell Ji Yunhai to discipline him. Discipline? What kind of outstanding descendant can you teach? It's not just Ji Shaoi. Don't you know what kind of person your grandson is? We old fellows have been living in seclusion here for so many years. As a junior, has he ever come to visit us? I'm afraid he hasn't even said a word of concern. Ninth Master Ji snorted coldly. The monarch's grandson was naturally Ryuko. Yes, yes, yes. In the future, we'll definitely discipline them strictly and let them accompany you more. The monarch nodded his head submissively. Forget it. A bunch of playboys. I'm too lazy to make do with them. When we return, tell Ji Yunhai that if he still hates Dong Zhengyang because of this and secretly tries to kill Dong Zhengyang, then don't blame me for not being polite to him. Ninth Master Ji's eyes flashed coldly. Understood. I'll definitely tell him. The monarch nodded. You may leave. Ninth Master Ji waved his hand. The monarch heaved a sigh of relief. He immediately carried the unconscious Ji Shaoi out of the barrier and landed beside eldest Master Ji. In the future, we should discipline our descendants more. Look at Qin Feiyang and the others. They're much better than them. Eldest Master Ji looked at the monarch and transmitted his voice. I understand. The monarch nodded and smiled bitterly. It seemed that these old people were very unhappy because of Ji Shaoi. Finally, the Eye of Destiny was successfully fused. Boom! An ancient and mysterious aura burst out from it. At this moment, the evolved Eye of Destiny was like a Taiji diagram. Countless mysterious runes appeared on it. Not only Qin Feiyang and the others, but even eldest Master Ji and the other old people felt that their fates were being peeped at and controlled by someone else. It's a success. Old Dong, take a look. What's the future situation? The crazy guy roared excitedly. Okay. Dong Zhengyang nodded. The Eye of Destiny started to spin. The runes on it gave off a dazzling divine light. After a while, his expression changed. His expression suddenly turned serious as he muttered, How could this be? Poof! Immediately after, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale, and the Eye of Destiny shattered. What's going on? Qin Feiyang and the others were shocked. However, Dong Zhengyang lowered his head and remained silent. His expression was extremely gloomy. Ji Lauer waved his hand, and the barrier disappeared. A group of people surrounded him and asked, What did you see? Dong Zhengyang lifted his head and looked at the group of people. Finally, he looked at Qin Feiyang. There was a tinge of sadness in his eyes. Then, he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, shook his head, and smiled. I can't reveal this. You're still keeping us in suspense? The white-eyed wolf was unhappy. I really can't say. After the Eye of Destiny evolved, it's different from before. If I say it now, my fate in the future might change. If it becomes better, then it's fine. But if it becomes worse than it is now, then I'll become a sinner. Dong Zhengyang smiled. You're just fooling us. The white-eyed wolf frowned. When Dong Zhengyang heard this, he couldn't help but roll his eyes. All right, since you can't say it, then don't say it. Anyway, he'll be by our side in the future. We just have to do what he says. Qin Feiyang smiled. Dong Zhengyang immediately looked at Qin Feiyang gratefully. He was thanking Qin Feiyang for helping him out of this predicament. Chapter 4099. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips. Judging from Dong Zhengyang's situation, the future was definitely not good. If he had told them in advance, they could have been prepared. But this guy was pretending to be mysterious? Fate is a very mysterious thing. It's indeed difficult to figure it out. And it's not a joke to say that the heavenly secrets can't be revealed. If I have to say it, not only will it change the future, but it will also bring great harm to Dong Zhengyang. Jiju smiled. What harm? The white-eyed wolf was surprised. Revealing the heavenly secrets is equivalent to going against the will of the heavenly Tao. Perhaps his lifespan will be shortened. Perhaps he won't be able to control the will of the heavenly Tao. Or perhaps his soul will be destroyed. Jiju said unfathomably. It's that serious? The white-eyed wolf was shocked. In that case, after the Eye of Destiny evolved, Dong Zhengyang would not be as free as before? There are gains and losses. That's the truth. No one can change this truth. Jiju smiled faintly. Jiju is a wise man. I admire you. Dong Zhengyang's face was full of admiration. Jiju waved his hand and sized up Dong Zhengyang, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the others. He seemed to have something to say but hesitated. Qin Feiyang noticed Jiju's abnormality. After thinking for a while, he smiled and said, "Great-grandfather, if you have something to say, just say it." Jiju looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. "I want Dong Zhengyang to stay here for the time being." Huh. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at Jiju in shock. The monarch was the same. Was he planning to personally nurture Dong Zhengyang? One had to know. Even the direct descendants of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan did not receive such treatment. He's too weak now. If he follows you, he'll only drag you down. Don't worry. We won't keep him tied up. When he masters the will of the heavenly Tao, we'll let him go to you. Jiju smiled. I'm not worried about that. I'm just surprised that you're going to teach him personally. Qin Feiyang smiled. Since that's the case, shouldn't you now understand the standpoint of us old fellows? Ninth Master Ji asked with a smile. Stand? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. After pondering for a moment, he suddenly understood and said, I understand. Thank you, great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers, for your trust. I will definitely work hard. The monarch also understood. Looking at the group of elders, he frowned and said, Isn't this too fast? Right now, they simply don't have the strength to fight against the sovereign. Indecisiveness will only lead to chaos. Although they don't have the strength to fight against a ruler right now, what about the future? This old man believes in these little fellows. Master Jiju smiled. The monarch frowned. This was using the fate of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan as a wager. Jiju looked at Qin Feiyang and continued. But there is one person we must win over. I believe you know who this person is. Sovereign of the human race. Qin Feiyang said word by word. That's right. Jiju nodded and took a deep breath. He looked up at the sky and said, He is the most important person. As long as we can persuade him, we basically have a 50% chance of winning. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said with a smile, To tell you the truth, I have already talked to Sovereign of the human race. He is indeed wavering. Right now, he just needs an opportunity. Really? Jiju looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Sovereign of the human race has also discussed these issues with me. Judging from his behavior, he is indeed wavering. But like me, he does not dare to make a bet at the moment. The monarch said, There is no rush. Apart from Sovereign of the human race, there are still many uncertain factors. For example, the divines. If we can get the support of the divines, our chances will undoubtedly be greater. Jiju smiled faintly. The monarch sighed and said, Don't forget, there is still the Central Dynasty, the Beast Race, and the Sea Race. How can this old man forget them? A cold light flashed in Jiju's eyes. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Let's not talk about the Central Dynasty first. You must be careful of the Beast Race and the Sea Race because their loyalty to the sovereign is far greater than ours. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. He frowned and said, Since they are so loyal, why didn't we see them when we invaded the Sky Cloud realm? It's very simple. Because there will inevitably be sacrifices when we invade the Sky Cloud realm. If it were you, would you choose to send your confidants to the front line to take risks? Jiju said. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. This meant that not only the sea race and the beast race were loyal to the sovereign of the divine kingdom, but the sovereign of the divine kingdom also trusted the sea race and the beast race very much and took care of them. Therefore, the beast race and the sea race were not involved in such a risky thing like invading the sky cloud realm. In other words, the sovereign of the divine kingdom did not want to see any casualties among the beast race and the sea race. Jeju looked at Qin Feiyong and the others and sighed. In short, to complete your plan is harder than ascending to the sky. You must be mentally prepared. I never thought that it would be easy to complete. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. It's good that you have such awareness. Furthermore, although we've already decided on our stand, our Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan is unable to provide any assistance to you all. You have to understand this. Jijio said. Understood. Qin Feiyong nodded. Although the sovereign of the divine kingdom was not present now, the sea race, the beast race, and the central dynasty were all potential threats. At this time, if the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan directly expressed their position without any concealment, it would inevitably attract the attacks of the central dynasty, the sea race, and the beast race. When the time came, the situation that the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan would face would be a disaster. In other words, now, they had to keep a distance from the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan and even play the role of enemies. The monarch pondered for a while, then looked at Qin Feiyong and asked, "Last time you told the human sovereign that the sovereign is not in the divine kingdom. Is this true?" Of course. This is what Mu Qing saw with his all-seeing eye. If he was in the divine kingdom, I would not dare to come to you so openly. Qin Feiyong smiled. That's good. The monarch was completely relieved. Then he asked, "How do you plan to persuade the divine king now? You must know that the feud between you and the god race has reached an irreconcilable point." Qin Feiyong pondered for a while, then frowned and said, "In your opinion, is the god race worth fighting for? You want to ask about the divine king's character, right?" The monarch said, "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded. "The divine king is proud and arrogant. She has always been dissatisfied with me because in her opinion, she should be the monarch of the divine kingdom. If it were not for the 3,000 incarnations that could suppress her, she would have started to fight for the throne with me. However, from the overall situation, compared to the sea race and the beast race, the divine king is not bad." The monarch said, "Since even you think she is not bad, we can try to fight for her." Qin Feiyong pondered, "But what if we can't fight for her?" The monarch asked. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and said, "If we can't fight for her, she is an enemy. Of course, we can't use merciful means to deal with enemies." Although his words were calm, everyone present could feel a great killing intent. This was Qin Feiyong. Sure enough, he was a decisive person. The monarch took a deep breath and looked at Qin Feiyong. He smiled faintly and said, "All right, since even these old people have chosen to support you, I have nothing more to say. The rest is up to you. Don't disappoint our expectations and trust in you." "Don't say that. I am under a lot of pressure." Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. Before the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan made their stance clear, he had been yearning for it every day. But now, when the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan made their stance clear, he suddenly felt a lot of pressure. Because the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan was completely gambling. If he lost in the end, everything would be buried with him. In the future, he couldn't be careless at all. The price of losing was too great. Boss Ji looked at the monarch and waved his hand. "Take Ji Shaoi back. Is this an order to leave?" The monarch was stunned. "Anyway, you are redundant here." Boss Ji didn't give this grandson any face. The monarch's mouth twitched. He, the grandson, had become superfluous? Where was the justice? Sigh. Opening a space-time passage, he turned and left with a stomach full of helplessness. Looking at the monarch who left dejectedly, Madman and the others couldn't help but snicker. Who would have thought that the monarch would have such a miserable side? Old Dong. Suddenly, Madman looked at Dong Xingyang and said, "Help me take a look at the fate of the inner demons and Lu Jiajin." "That's right." Qin Feiyong patted his head and hurriedly looked at Dong Xingyang. Dong Xingyang was stunned for a moment, pointed at Mu Qing and said, looking for the inner demons and Lu Jiajin, "Isn't his eye of heaven more useful than mine?" Qin Feiyang, white-eyed wolf, and Madman were stunned, then suddenly patted their heads, looking extremely annoyed. They actually didn't think of this. The three of them hurriedly looked at Mu Qing. "Don't worry. Let me take a look first." Mu Qing comforted the three of them and opened his eye of heaven. "Inner demons? Lu Jiajin?" A group of old people looked at Qin Feiyang and the others in confusion. Where did these two people come from? They actually made this group of kids so concerned. But at this moment, Qin Feiyang and the others were not in the mood to explain and looked nervously at Mu Qing. However, in Dong Zhengyang looked at the group of old people and said with a smile, "The inner demons are Qin Feiyang's inner demons, and Lu Jiajin is Qin Feiyang's cousin. He also has inner demons?" The group of old people was shocked. "Yes, and his relationship with the inner demons is very good. I remember that year. The inner demons sacrificed themselves in order to save him." Dong Zhengyang nodded. The 15 old people looked at each other. Who didn't know about the inner demons? But the relationship between the inner demons and the original body was very good, which was a bit beyond imagination. Of course, their relationship slowly changed after going through a lot of things. As for Lu Jiajin, he is the owner of one of the strongest battle souls, the Eye of Nothingness. In the past, we always thought that the two of them had fallen. But when your divine kingdom invaded the sky cloud realm, two big shots came and said that they were not dead. So Qin Feiyang was very concerned. Dong Zhengyang explained. "So that's the case." The group of old people suddenly understood. Ji Lauer asked, "What big shots?" Dong Zhengyang narrowed his eyes slightly and said in a deep voice, "You should have heard of the ice dragon and the heaven-swallowing beast." Hearing these two terrifying existences, the pupils of the 15 old people suddenly shrank. They had not seen them, but they had indeed heard of them. The ice dragon and the heaven-swallowing beast had forcefully entered the divine kingdom, rescued Qin Feiyang and the others, and restrained the ruler. The Lord had already told them about these things. Even the ruler was so cautious in front of them. One could imagine how strong they were. Chapter 4100. Wait, Ice Dragon, Heaven-Devouring Beast. Jiju suddenly stretched out his hand, his face full of surprise. After pondering for a while, he looked at Dong Zhengyang and asked, "They helped to restrain the beast god. Could it be that they're the ones behind you?" "You can say that." Dong Zhengyang nodded. Jijia's heart trembled. He didn't expect this group of kids to have such strong backers. But this doesn't make sense. Ice Dragon and Heaven-Devouring Beast are obviously stronger than the Beast God. Why didn't they do it themselves and let you take the risk? Boss Ji frowned. How can we guess the thoughts of these big shots? Dong Zhengyang smiled bitterly. That's true. Boss Ji was stunned for a moment before he nodded and smiled bitterly. And Ice Dragon and Heaven-Devouring Beast aren't our backers. Because they have a grudge against us. Dong Zhengyang clenched his fists. A grudge? The group of elders was stunned. Yes, it's very complicated. I can't explain it clearly in a short time. Anyway, I'll stay. I'll tell you slowly when the time comes. Dong Zhengyang smiled. Okay. The group of elders nodded and then looked at Mu Qing. The Eye of Void. They really didn't expect that there would be another person with the strongest battle soul. What was even more unbelievable was that Qin Feiyang actually had an inner demons in the world. Ji Laoshi pondered for a while, then looked at Dong Zhengyang and asked, "Was this kid's inner demons born before or after he became a god?" "Before he became a god," Dong Zhengyang said. "Then how did he become a god?" Ji Laoshi was surprised. With inner demons, it was impossible to become a god. Proving one's Tao through battle, defying the heavens, and changing one's fate. Dong Zhengyang smiled slightly. When Ji Laoshi heard this, his heart trembled. How much courage did one need to be able to do this? The more time he spent with Qin Feiyang, the more he looked at him in a new light. He was simply a miraculous person. Time passed quietly. Why is it taking so long? Madman couldn't help but frown when he saw Mu Qing not moving for a long time. Meanwhile, Mu Qing also frowned. He seemed to have seen something very puzzling. After a long time, Mu Qing finally reacted. She looked at Qin Feiyang, and the confusion on her face deepened. What is it? Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched as an uneasy premonition arose in his heart. Don't be nervous. From the observation of the all-seeing eye, the inner demons and Lu Jiajin are indeed still alive, Mu Qing said. Upon hearing this, Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were overjoyed. They were undoubtedly the ones who had the best relationship with the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. For example, in Longqin, the lunatic never saw the inner demons and Lu Jiajin again. Mu Qing was no stranger to the inner demons and Lu Jiajin. But back then, Mu Qing hated the inner demons and Lu Jiajin very much. But now, everything had vanished into thin air. The white-eyed wolf stared at Mu Qing and urged, I know, there must be a but. Hurry up and say it. Upon hearing this, Mu Qing couldn't help but shake her head with a smile and continued, But I can't spy on their precise location. How is this possible? Your all-seeing eye has now evolved. Even the location of the ruler of the divine kingdom can't escape your spying. The white-eyed wolf frowned. But the problem is, I really can't spy on their location. There seems to be a mysterious force between us. Mu Qing's brows were tightly knitted. Is it the two bastards, Ice Dragon and Sky Swallowing Beast, who are playing tricks again? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. What are you talking about? Who are the bastards? Longqin's face suddenly darkened as he stared at the white-eyed wolf. They are bastards to begin with. The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. You! Longqin gritted his teeth. Stop, stop. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand to stop them. Otherwise, they would quarrel again. Then, he looked at the white-eyed wolf and smiled. It's fine as long as we can confirm that they're not dead. Yes, this is also considered good news. The white-eyed wolf nodded and looked at Dong Xingyang. He frowned and said, Help me take a look and see when we will meet in the future. Okay. Dong Xingyang nodded and opened his Eye of Destiny again. Very soon, he couldn't help but frown. What's going on? The white-eyed wolf was puzzled. After a while, Dong Xingyang looked at the two of them and shook his head. I also encountered the same situation as Mu Qing. When the white-eyed wolf heard this, he glanced at Longqin and snorted coldly. There's no need to think. It must be those two bastards behind this. Have you said enough? Longqin was furious. The 6 ultimate mysteries appeared in an instant. A shocking will of the heavenly Tao burst forth. What the hell? The white-eyed wolf's eyes suddenly widened. The 6 ultimate mysteries of the supreme laws? Will of the heavenly Tao? Did he see wrongly? He rubbed his eyes hard and couldn't believe what he was seeing. I haven't settled the score from a few days ago with you. Now, let's settle the new and old scores together. Longqin snorted coldly. Damn you. You've mastered the will of the heavenly Tao so quickly. Are you still human? The 36 stratagems run. The white-eyed wolf activated the moment of time and turned to run. Longqin smiled disdainfully and also activated the moment of time. With the support of the will of the heavenly Tao, his speed was much faster than the white-eyed wolf. Madam, please spare my life. I will be careful when I speak in the future. Soon. The white-eyed wolf's miserable howl could be heard from afar. This young man is so energetic. Second young mistress laughed. Ha, they're like this. You'll get used to it. Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. But then again, the two of them are really a good match. You brothers, why don't you matchmake them? Ji Laosher laughed sinisterly. Cough, cough. Qin Feiyang choked quite badly. He smiled bitterly and said, This wolf cub already has a wife. He's already married? Ji Laosher was stunned. Not really. Qin Feiyang shook his head. I see. Then this is nothing. As long as they have feelings for each other. Ji Laosher waved his hand. How can it be so simple? Qin Feiyang sighed. Even if Fire Dance didn't have any objections, Longqin's identity was an unbreakable barrier. Just think about it. Would Revered Dragon and Ice Dragon agree? Even if everything went smoothly, Ice dragon and revered dragon would forcefully tear it apart. Where there is a will, there is a way. Frenzy didn't think so. You just want to see the world in chaos. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and looked at Dong Xingyang, asking, "Didn't you see anything at all?" "I vaguely saw something. In the future." Dong Xingyang hesitated for a moment and said with uncertainty, "You should meet soon?" "What do you mean by this? Could it be that they are also in the Divine Kingdom?" Frenzy was surprised. "I'm really not sure about this." Dong Zhengyang smiled apologetically. "It's okay." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said with a smile, "Knowing that they are alive is the best news." "Yes. People should be more optimistic. Don't make trouble for yourself." Ji Lauer laughed. "That's right." Qin Feiyang nodded and pondered for a moment. Looking at the 15 elders, he asked, "Great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers, I would like to ask you a question. Do you have any information about the Eye of Nothingness and the Eye of Reincarnation?" Eye of Nothingness, Eye of Reincarnation. The 15 elders were silent for a moment and shook their heads. "We really don't." Qin Feiyang frowned and sighed. "Even you don't know. It seems that the owners of these two battle souls are really not in the Divine Kingdom." Boss Ji looked at Qin Feiyang and asked carefully, "Don't tell us that the owners of the 10 battle souls are all by your side? Then I really want to say that they are all by my side." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. The dozen of them were stunned. Was there such a coincidence? Eye of Heaven, Eye of Heaven, Eye of Destiny, Eye of Despair, and Eye of Nothingness. Now you all know about them. The Eye of Evil is Mu Qing's ancestor, Mu Tianyang. The Eye of Oblivion is a sister I grew up with, Lin Yi. The Eye of Life is my wife, the princess of the Mermaid clan. The Eye of Destruction is the ancestor of my cousin Lu Jiajin, Lu Xingyang. As for the owner of the Eye of Reincarnation, you are no stranger to him. He is my ancestor, Qin Batian. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Qin Batian is the owner of the Eye of Reincarnation? The 15 elders exclaimed. Yes. He is the grandson of the monarch. Qin Feiyang smiled. The group of elders was shocked. In this way, their purple gold divine dragon clan had the two strongest battle souls, the Eye of Heaven and the Eye of Reincarnation. Because Qin Batian and Qin Feiyang were both descendants of their purple gold divine dragon clan. The most terrifying thing was, half of the other 8 strongest battle souls were Qin Feiyang's relatives. For example, Lu Jiajin, Mermaid Princess, Lin Yi, and Lu Xingyang were all blood-related. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Lin Yi and I are not blood-related, but our relationship is closer than siblings. No wonder you guys are so terrifying. This is not without reason. Boss Ji shook his head. All the possessors of the strongest fighting souls were by Qin Feiyang's side. If all the fighting souls were to successfully evolve, what kind of scene would that be? There was hope. This bet wasn't wrong. Qin Feiyang put down his worries about the inner demons and big cousin, looked at Master Jijio, and smiled. Great-grandfather, didn't you say you would take me to the tea garden? Okay, let's go now. I promise you, kid, it will be an eye-opener. Master Jijio froze for a moment and nodded with a smile. His face was full of pride. Not to mention other things, he had absolute confidence in the tea garden on the top of the mountain. No one could surpass it. Immediately, the two flew to the top of the mountain. It's over. Another victim. Madman shook his head. And Li Feng also nodded. What do you mean? Boss Ji and others looked at the two suspiciously. Now, I won't hide it from you. This old Qin said that he was only a little interested in tea, but in fact, his obsession with tea has reached the point of no cure. Especially the divine tea. Long Qin's brother, Long Chun, he has a lot of divine tea. He usually guards against old Qin like guarding against a thief. This Master Ju actually took the initiative to take him up. Isn't this inviting a thief into the house? Madman bared his teeth. Hearing this, Boss Ji and others were stunned. It seemed that there would be a good show to watch later. Chapter 4101. At the top of the mountain. The moment Qin Feiyang followed Jijio to the top of the mountain, he was dumbfounded. The entire top of the mountain was almost full of tea gardens. Numerous tea trees swayed in the wind, overflowing with multicolored light, as if numerous slender and elegant young girls were waving their hands at him. He estimated there should be thousands of tea trees here, 20 to 30 varieties. He had never seen any of them before. Thousands of divine tea trees, 20 to 30 varieties. For Qin Feiyang, it was a fatal temptation. What do you think? Jiju looked at Qin Feiyang proudly. Amazing. Qin Feiyang nodded. It was really eye-opening. Every tea tree here was carefully nurtured by this old man. They are like this old man's children. Jiju led Qin Feiyang into the tea garden and walked on a small path. It was a winding path that ran through the entire tea garden. He looked at the tea trees on both sides with an extremely kind look, as if he was looking at his own children. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He asked carefully and tentatively, "What if someone wants to take your tea garden?" That means he wants this old man's lifeblood. This old man will not rest until he is dead. Jiju said immediately without hesitation. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that this old man really loved tea. Suddenly, he looked at the center of the tea garden. There were 6 golden tea trees, which were particularly eye-catching. These 6 tea trees were as thick as an adult's arm. Whether it was the trunks or the leaves, they all seemed to be cast with gold foil, emitting a dazzling brilliance. What was more amazing was, there were fruits growing on them. These fruits were also golden, but they were very small, about the size of a baby's thumb. But the most amazing thing was the shape of these fruits. Every fruit was like a Bodhi sitting cross-legged on a lotus. One could even see their facial features clearly, and they were filled with a shocking divinity. Are these also tea trees? Qin Feiyang was extremely bewildered. He strode over. Jijia was stunned. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was walking towards the 6 tea trees, he immediately followed him. Very soon, the two of them walked in tandem to the 6 tea trees. Not only could he smell an unprecedented fragrance, but he could also sense a kind of Buddhist aura. He could even faintly hear a kind of faintly discernible chanting sound. Grandfather, what is this? Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with curiosity. This is a treasure. Master Jijio stepped forward and caressed the leaves and fruits on the tree, afraid that he would destroy them if he used too much strength. What treasure? Qin Feiyang became even more curious. Just this fragrance alone was enough to make him salivate. Bodhi Divine Tea Tree. Jijio said, "It's really a tea tree?" Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up, but soon he covered it up. He mustn't be discovered by this old man. Otherwise, he would definitely guard against him like a thief. Divine tea trees are also divided into different grades. Nowadays, the commonly seen divine teas in the Divine Kingdom are all low-grade divine teas. But this Bodhi divine tea is a genuine supreme-grade divine tea. This old man has spent tens of millions of years and only cultivated these 6. Even if you give this old man 100 ultimate profundities of the strongest laws, this old man won't exchange them. Jiju chuckled. Supreme-grade divine tea. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. He was actually unwilling to exchange 100 ultimate profundities of the strongest laws? Was there really such a treasure? However, looking at Jijia's expression, there was no trace of exaggeration. In his heart, he was suddenly very eager. The tea leaves that Qi Xiaoyun and Long Chun gave him were all low-grade divine teas. Supreme-grade divine tea was really unheard of. Indeed, as Jiju said, for people who loved tea, this level of divine tea was really priceless. Qin Feiyang desperately restrained his impulsive little hand and asked, "Grandfather, what's the use of the fruit on the tree?" "This fruit," Jiju chuckled and said, "of course it's used to make tea." "What? The fruit makes tea?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Yes, this fruit is called the Bodhi fruit. Although it's very small, the fragrance it condenses will not dissipate for thousands of years. In other words, just one Bodhi fruit is enough for you to drink for 1,000 years. Jiju chuckled. "Is it that exaggerated?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Not only the Bodhi fruit, but the Bodhi leaf can also be used to make tea, but the taste of the Bodhi leaf in tea is naturally slightly inferior to the Bodhi fruit. But even so, the Bodhi leaf is still priceless. Generally, this old man uses the Bodhi leaf to entertain distinguished guests, such as the human race's sovereign, the divine king, Neptune, the beast king, and other big shots. As for the Bodhi fruit, not to mention them, even this old man is reluctant to use it. Jiju laughed. The more Qin Feiyang listened, the more tempted he became. Jiju said, "And the Bodhi leaf and the Bodhi fruit have a great effect." What's the effect? Qin Feiyang was surprised. It can improve one's comprehension and change one's physique. Of course, the effect is not very great for people at our level, but for those who have not stepped into the Dominator realm, especially the children who have just been born, just one sip can make them be reborn. Jiju smiled slightly. There's such an effect? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Wasn't this clearly tempting him? No. If this continued, he was afraid that he would not be able to resist robbing. What about the other tea trees? Qin Feiyang quickly shifted his gaze and looked at the other tea trees. This tea garden has low-grade divine tea, mid-grade divine tea, and high-grade divine tea. But there are only 6 supreme-grade divine tea trees. This old man will explain it to you one by one. Jiju laughed and walked in front, leading Qin Feiyang to walk around the tea garden. The more Qin Feiyang listened, the more tempted he became. Just as Mu Qing had said, this place was a huge treasure trove. However, judging from Jijia's attitude towards these tea trees, it was impossible to take a tea tree from him. These were his lifeblood. What should he do? Ask for it? At most, Jiju would give him some tea leaves, but he would not give him a divine tea tree. Find an opportunity to snatch it? With his strength, he could not snatch it from this old man. And this kind of behavior was a bit unethical and betrayed the old man's trust in him. This made him feel very conflicted. But if he left empty-handed, he was not willing to leave. "Old Jiu, come down quickly." At this time, Boss Ji's voice sounded in the village below. What? Jiju was stunned and asked suspiciously, "Come down. We have something to discuss." Boss Ji replied, "Okay, I'll go down right away." Jiju nodded, turned to look at Qin Feiyang, and said with a smile, "You've seen enough, go down?" Ahem. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and said with a smile, "I still want to see. What else is there to see?" Jiju was puzzled. It's the first time I've seen so much divine tea, so I'm a little excited. So, Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. Jiju looked at him and shook his head helplessly. "Okay, you can stay here and watch slowly, but don't move." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. Jiju turned and left. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and looked at the tea trees around him. He suddenly felt conflicted. Now was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Even if he swept the entire tea garden, no one would stop him. But doing so was indeed a bit unethical. What should I do? Should I do it or not? With a conflicted mood, he walked to a tea tree. This was a middle-grade divine tea tree. The tea leaves were slender and green like jade. Do it. Can you resist? In a trance, he saw a little person appear on the tea leaves. This little person seemed to be formed from his heart. It looked exactly like him and was tempting him. No, great-grandfather trusts us so much. It's not right for us to do this. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Don't worry. He likes you so much. He definitely won't blame you. At most, he'll scold you. You're so thick-skinned. Are you afraid of being scolded? The pocket-sized little person bared its teeth, as if it contained a magical power, which made Qin Feiyang's heart palpitate. Taking away only 1 or 2 of thousands of tea trees should be no problem, right? His impulsive little hand was a little uncontrollable. No matter what, I have to inform great-grandfather first. Seeing that he was about to take action, Qin Feiyang shook his head and shook the back of his hand. Don't dream. It's not like you didn't see his love for these tea trees. If you tell him in advance, will he give it to you? I'm afraid he'll kick you out immediately. The best way is to act first and report later. The pocket-sized little person continued to instigate. In fact, this was his inner voice. Qin Feiyang's heart was in a dilemma. It was driving him crazy. Don't hesitate. If you hesitate, he will come back. At that time, there will be no chance. Just as Qin Feiyang was in a trance, a hand suddenly appeared behind him and patted his shoulder. Qin Feiyang was startled. He quickly turned around, thinking that Ninth Master Ji had returned. But when he looked back, he found that it was Madman, Mu Qing, and Li Feng standing behind him. "You're acting like you're guilty." The three of them looked at Qin Feiyang with ridicule. Qin Feiyang panicked and looked behind the three of them. "Don't worry. Ninth Master Ji is restrained by Boss Ji." Madman bared his teeth. "Restrained?" Qin Feiyang was taken aback and asked suspiciously, "What do you mean? If Ninth Master Ji is here all the time, can you find a chance?" So, Boss Ji and the others decided to help you. They deliberately called Ninth Master Ji away so that you can take action. They even asked us to secretly come and help you. You're just standing here like a block of wood. You didn't move for a long time. Madman glared at him angrily. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He turned to Mu Qing and Li Feng and asked, "Is that really the case?" That was because Madman was sometimes unreliable. It's true. Boss Ji and the others know Ninth Master Ji too well. These tea trees are his lifeblood, so if they don't call him away, you won't find a chance at all. Mu Qing and Li Feng nodded. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. Joining forces to trick Ninth Master Ji? In that case, he definitely couldn't let down the good intentions of these great-grandparents. He finally found a suitable reason. Hee. They were indeed a group of reasonable old people. They were so cute. Chapter 4102. Madman had already taken action. He hugged a tea tree and pulled it up by the roots. "Be careful, don't hurt it," Qin Feiyang hurriedly warned. "Do you think this is cabbage?" Madman rolled his eyes. How could a divine tree be so fragile? Following that, he started to pull out the second one. Wait. One type, one is enough." Qin Feiyang hurriedly stopped him. "What do you know? Good things come in pairs." Madman bared his teeth and used his strength to pull out the second tea tree. "Since good things come in pairs, why don't we have a Three Suns opening?" Mu Qing hugged another tea tree. "Why don't you say it's spring all year round?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and stopped Mu Qing. "Really, two is enough. Don't go too far, otherwise, Master Jiji will skin us alive in the future." "That's true." Mu Qing nodded, let go of the tea tree in his hand, and ran to pull out another type. Li Feng also joined in the sweep. "Why are you more like a bandit than me?" Qin Feiyang was speechless. He turned to look at the Bodhi Divine tea tree and walked over uncontrollably. "Great-grandfather, I'm sorry. It's really not my fault. It's just that your tea tree is too tempting. Don't worry, I will definitely repay you in the future and be filial to you." Qin Feiyang chuckled and carefully walked in front of a Bodhi Divine tea tree. Strands of law power poured into the ground, not harming a single root. After spending dozens of breaths of time, he finally pulled out the first Bodhi Divine tea tree. Good things come in pairs. What a good phrase. He began to pull out the second one. The temptation of this top-grade divine tea was too great. After pulling out the second one, he wanted to pull out the third one. But in the end, he endured it. He began to sweep through the other varieties. There weren't many, only 2 stalks of each variety. Anyway, there weren't many people who drank tea in the Black Tortoise world. 2 of each variety was completely enough. Finally, according to the 4 of them, there were a total of 20 varieties here. 2 of each variety, that was 40. He had made a huge profit. Qin Feiyang sent all of them into the Black Tortoise world and instructed the Fire Lotus to be planted properly and not have any mishaps. "Are you satisfied now?" Madman patted the dirt off his hands and grinned. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded with a big smile. "Then let's go." The 4 of them left the tea garden and flew towards the village. In the village, Boss Ji and Ninth Master Ji were sitting opposite each other, playing chess. Ji Lauer and the others were accompanying him at the side. As for Ninth Master Ji, he looked at Boss Ji gloomily. Huoliao anxiously asked him to come down. He thought it was something important, but it turned out that he was just playing chess with his boss. Wasn't this a waste of time? This was because Boss Ji's chess skills were nothing in front of Lin Fan, but it couldn't be helped. Who asked Boss G to be the big brother? Wait, why don't I see little lunatic, Mu Qing, and Li Feng? Suddenly, Master Jijiu scanned the village and asked suspiciously, "Be serious." Boss G glared at him. All right, all right, all right. Master Jijiu nodded. He looked at Boss G suspiciously, then looked at Ji Lauer and the others. Why did he feel that the atmosphere wasn't right? Speak of the devil. Qin Feiyang and the other three descended from the sky and landed beside a group of elders. Why did you come down from the top of the mountain? Master Jijiu looked at Madman and Mu Qing suspiciously. Madman chuckled and said, looking at the scenery at the back of the mountain, "It's easier to meet old Qin, so we came back together." After saying that, he winked at Boss G and the others. Boss G and the group of elders all had a faint smile on their faces. Qin Feiyang also cast a grateful look. Paper can't wrap the fire. Let's go. Madman said. Okay. Qin Feiyang secretly responded, walked in front of the group of elders and bowed. Great-grandfathers, great-grandmothers, we should also leave. Leaving so soon? Master Jijiu looked back at Qin Feiyang. I also want to stay here and chat with you, but there's no other way. I still have a lot of things to deal with. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Young people should be like this, responsible and responsible. Boss G nodded. Of course, they knew that he was going to slip away. Great-grandpa, you're too serious. I'm just doing what I should do. When I have time in the future, I will definitely come to visit great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers. Qin Feiyang smiled. It's good that you have this intention. Go. Ji Laosher waved his hand. And Qin Feiyang nodded, then cupped his hands and said, Finally, thank you great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers for your help. I will remember it for the rest of my life. It's nothing. The group of elders laughed. Help what? Only Master Jijiu had a suspicious look. He kept feeling that there was something wrong with this. Nothing. Boss Ji shook his head. Then, Qin Feiyang looked at Master Jijiu again and bowed. Great-grandpa, please don't be angry, because it's harmful to your body. I promise that I will be filial to you in the future. What is this old man angry about? Master Jijiu was baffled. Filial to this old man? What the hell? Go quickly, go quickly. Boss Ji waved his hand and urged. Although it had only been 2 days since he came to this village, Qin Feiyang was still a little reluctant to leave now, because every old man here was someone he cared about. However, there was no banquet that didn't end. Let's go. Frenzy, Mu Qing, and Li Feng dragged Qin Feiyang together and soared into the air, looking like they were running for their lives. As for Dong Zhengyang, he stayed in the village. As for the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin, they were still struggling in the mountains outside the village. Good luck. Dong Zhengyang looked at the 4 people who were gradually disappearing and muttered, Don't worry. Heaven helps the worthy. Boss Ji chuckled, put down the chess piece in his hand, got up and looked at Ji Lauer. Let's go fishing? Fishing? Master Jijiu was taken aback and hurriedly said, We haven't decided the winner yet. You won't let me win. Sooner or later you will lose. What's the point of competing? Boss Ji pursed his lips and followed Ji Lauer, walking towards the river with a smile. The other old men looked at Master Jijiu at this moment with a faint smile on their faces. What are you laughing at? Master Jijiu became more and more confused. Brother Jiu, you'd better go to the top of the mountain to take a look. Ji Laosher smiled meaningfully. Top of the mountain? Master Jijiu looked up at the top of the mountain. What did this mean? But suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, looked at the direction where Qin Feiyang and the other 3 disappeared, then looked at Boss Ji's back, then looked at the smile on Ji Laosher and the others' faces, and immediately put down the chess piece in his hand and rushed to the top of the mountain. You 4 little bastards. Soon, a roar sounded at the top of the mountain. Hurry up. Qin Feiyang and the other 3 hadn't gone far when they heard Master Jijiu's roar. Their faces changed on the spot, and they immediately sped up. What's going on? In the mountains, White-Eyed Wolf, who had been tortured to a bloody nose and swollen eyes, and the overbearing Long Qin, also heard Master Jijiu's roar. The 2 of them looked up at the village. Whoosh! At this time, Qin Feiyang and the other three flew over, looked at the two people below, and shouted, "Go quickly!" The two of them were stunned for a moment, then quickly rose into the air and fled with the four of them. What's going on? Master Jiao, is he scolding you? White-eyed Wolf looked at the three of them suspiciously. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Why is he scolding you? This was puzzling. Master Jiu was such a kind person. How could he scold people? Ahem. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly, looking extremely embarrassed. About 100 breaths later, a group of 6 people escaped from the mountains and entered a forest. Qin Feiyang finally told the two of them the situation. Damn, are you crazy? How dare you have designs on his tea trees? White-eyed Wolf was dumbfounded. Long Qin's mouth couldn't help but twitch. They were indeed a group of lawless people. What surprised her the most was that Boss Ji and the others were actually helping Qin Feiyang and the others. What kind of magic potion did they feed them? Ha! Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. No matter what, he would be a person with divine tea trees in the future, so he didn't need to curry favor with Long Chun anymore. No. Now it was Long Chun who came to curry favor with him, because Long Chin's divine tea trees couldn't be compared with his at all. Moreover, there was the best divine tea. When Long Chun saw it, he definitely wouldn't be able to calm down. I really admire your courage. That old man is probably mad now. White-eyed Wolf shook his head and asked, What's the next plan? Qin Feiyang suppressed the excitement in his heart, lowered his head and pondered for a while. Then his eyes flashed and he said, Let's go to the island of gods again. Again? The divine king will tear us apart. White-eyed Wolf's face darkened. Scared? Long Qin looked at him with disdain. Why would I be scared? Are you kidding me? White-eyed Wolf snorted coldly. You've been beaten up quite badly. Frenzy looked at White-eyed Wolf's bruised nose and swollen face. Get lost. This damn woman has mastered the will of the heavenly Tao, but she didn't tell me. What kind of brother are you? White-eyed Wolf glared at him. If he had known, he wouldn't have dared to say that to Ice Dragon. Then did she unlock the seal for you? Frenzy asked. Seal? White-eyed Wolf was stunned. Yes. Jiang Yunshuang, Jiang Xing, and Jiang Zishan are dead. We can unlock the seals of the 3 iron boxes. Frenzy nodded, then frowned and asked, Don't tell me you've been beaten up by her and didn't think of this at all? White-eyed Wolf's mouth twitched when he heard this. He really forgot about it, but he couldn't admit it. He snorted coldly and said, How could I not think of it? I just didn't have the chance to say it. Frenzy was speechless to the extreme. White-eyed Wolf looked at Long Qin, rubbed his bruised face and said, Damn woman, you're a woman of your word. Sorry. Long Qin's face darkened and he snorted. I really can't agree to this. What do you mean? You're not done, are you? White-eyed Wolf was furious. Don't be so unreasonable. Long Qin glared at White-eyed Wolf and said, This time, I don't want to make things difficult for you, because we agreed that you have to kill the heavenly talents of the divine kingdom. This time, Jiang Yunshuang and the other 2 were killed by Qin Feiyang. It has nothing to do with you. White-eyed Wolf was stunned. Frenzy, Mu Qing, and Li Feng were also stunned. It seemed that there was such a thing. Not to mention White-eyed Wolf and the other 3, even Qin Feiyang ignored this problem. Chapter 4103. What about now? Mu Qing came back to her senses and asked Qin Feiyang and the other 3. If it didn't count, wouldn't Jiang Yunshuang and the other 2 have been killed for nothing? The White-eyed Wolf glanced at Long Qin and said helplessly, Damned woman, can't we discuss this? Rules are rules. Long Qin turned her head and looked away. Rules are dead, but people are alive. Besides, your father isn't in the divine kingdom now. What are you afraid of? Besides, you beat me up like this. Shouldn't you compensate me for my loss? The White-eyed Wolf looked at Long Qin pitifully, tears almost coming out of his eyes. You deserve to be beaten up. Long Qin snorted coldly. Yes, yes, yes. I deserve it. I'm a jerk. I'll apologize to you and admit my mistake. Is that enough? Can you just stoop to the level of a jerk like me? The white-eyed wolf turned on his thick-skinned mode. He leaned in front of Longqing and smiled ingratiatingly. Longqing raised her head proudly, but she glanced at the white-eyed wolf from the corner of her eyes. Looking at the white-eyed wolf at this moment, she couldn't help but want to laugh. Wasn't he very arrogant? Now he had the time to beg for help? Can you make an exception for me? Look at how deep our relationship is now. Can you bear to see us worried like this? The white-eyed wolf grabbed Longqing's slender arm and shook it, as if he was acting coquettishly. It gave Longqing goosebumps all over. Can you not disgust me? Longqing slapped away the white-eyed wolf's hands. Don't be like this. I'm just a toad. Can't I beg you, goddess? Anyway, he had been beaten up like this and lost face. He didn't care about the remaining dignity. A toad? Longqing was stunned. In order to break the seal, this guy was too unscrupulous. She laughed coldly and said, You know your place this time. So you agree? White-eyed wolf asked. Longqing frowned. His face was full of helplessness as he said, Only this time. Don't do it again. Thank you, thank you. As expected of a goddess. The white-eyed wolf was so excited that he grabbed Longqing's shoulder and kissed her on the face. Ugh. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. Madman, Mu Qing, and Li Feng were also dumbfounded. Even Longqing was dumbfounded. She was kissed just like that? The white-eyed wolf also realized what was going on. His expression froze. What was going on? Why did he kiss her? The atmosphere was extremely awkward. Longqing's face gradually turned red. Don't be angry. I was just too excited and couldn't help myself. Even I didn't know that I would do something like this. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand as he retreated. This tigress was definitely going to flip out again. As expected, when Longqing came back to his senses, he was furious on the spot. I really didn't do it on purpose. Listen to my explanation. The white-eyed wolf turned around and ran. As he ran, he shouted. How could he face Sister Feng? No. He should be worried about himself now. If Sister Feng knew about this, his ending would be even more miserable. How could he be so foolish? It was over. He was going to lose his life. This is really exciting. Madman muttered as he looked at the white-eyed wolf who was running for his life. Indeed. Mu Qing nodded. The corners of his mouth lifted slightly. He pursed his lips and smiled playfully. It will be even more exciting when Fire Dance knows about it. Qin Feiyang looked at the two speechlessly. It was a typical case of wanting to see the world in chaos. However, this white-eyed wolf was too much. It was one thing to be excited, but why did he do such a thing? Wasn't he just looking for trouble? The wailing lasted for a long time before it stopped. Not long after, the two of them returned. The white-eyed wolf was even more miserable. Not only was his nose bruised and his eyes swollen, but his mouth was also like a sausage. As for Longqing, looking at Qin Feiyang and the other three, his cheeks couldn't help but turn red. He snorted coldly. Sure enough, there are no good men. Qin Feiyang and the other three looked at each other. This was too innocent. Especially Mu Qing and Li Feng. We don't even have a partner yet. How are we not good men? You've beaten us up and scolded us. It's time to help us unlock the seal. The white-eyed wolf rubbed his bruised face and took out 2 iron boxes. These were the iron boxes that contained the 2 inheritances. Longqing rolled his eyes at him. He refined 2 drops of blood essence and dripped it on the iron boxes. When the blood essence fused into the iron boxes, a layer of seal immediately appeared. Immediately after, with a bang, the seal broke. An aura of the law of life and the law of destruction immediately surged out. This time, the white-eyed wolf was finally energetic. He was more excited than before. As long as he fused these 2 inheritances, he would be able to master the will of the heavenly Tao, and his fusion speed would be faster than Longqing. Because he himself had mastered the law of life and the law of destruction, he didn't need to spend time to comprehend and could directly fuse them. However, with the previous lesson, this time he didn't act impulsively and stayed far away from Longqing. Longqing looked at the madman and Li Feng and said, We can still unlock 1 more seal. Which one of you 2 will go first? Brother Madman, you go first. Li Feng laughed. then I'll be unreasonable. The madman laughed and took out an iron box. When the seal was opened, the power of time roared out like a tide. Obviously, this was the inheritance of the ultimate meaning of the law of time. The white-eyed wolf glanced at the madman, then looked at Qin Feiyong and urged, "Quickly send us to the castle." Qin Feiyong smiled. Just as they were about to disappear, the white-eyed wolf stared at Long Qin and shouted, "Damn woman, just you wait. When I master the will of the heavenly Tao, I will definitely find you to settle the score." The seal in his hand had been removed, so he naturally didn't have to be afraid anymore. So he was unscrupulous. Long Qin's face darkened. What a naughty guy. She was actually kissed by such a bastard. Just thinking about it made her angry. What happened before might really be an accident. Don't take it to heart. Qin Feiyong looked at Long Qin and smiled comfortingly. If it was you, would you not take it to heart? Don't say it so lightly, okay? Long Qin snorted coldly. Ha! Qin Feiyong laughed dryly. However, if this continued, something would really happen. There was a saying that said, "Fighting is love, scolding is love. If you don't fight and scold, you won't be in love." At that time, these two people might really have feelings for each other. No, the onlooker sees more clearly than the person involved. Judging from the current performance of these two, they actually had some feelings for each other in their hearts. It was just that they hadn't noticed it yet. What should they do? Support? How could they get past Fire Dance? How could they get past Revered Dragon and Ice Dragon? Oppose? There was an old saying about this. It was better to tear down 10 temples than to destroy a marriage. It was really difficult to do. It seemed that he had to have a good talk with the white-eyed wolf. It couldn't go on like this. Li Feng turned to look at Qin Feiyong and asked, "Qindage, are we going to the mythical island now?" Qin Feiyong looked up at the sun in the sky and shook his head. "It's better not to be so blatant. Let's go in the middle of the night when it's quiet." The Central Dynasty, the Sea Clan, and the Beast Clan. They couldn't let their guard down in the face of these three behemoths. Actually, I'm a little envious of Dong Zhengyang. Mu Qing shook his head and smiled. Qin Feiyong was taken aback and shook his head with a smile. Indeed, but the pressure on us is also reduced. Because Dong Zhengyang stayed in the village, they didn't need to worry about the ultimate profound that Dong Zhengyang needed in the future. After all, Boss Ji and the others had already said that when Dong Zhengyang grasped the will of the heavenly Tao, Dong Zhengyang would come to find them. Now, Mu Tianyang had it. The demon ancestor also had enough inheritance. Only Mu Qing was left. When Mu Qing's ultimate profound was gathered, it was time to make plans for the people around him. At the same time, the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan's ancestral land. In an ancient hall, Ji Yunhai squatted on the ground, holding the unconscious Ji Shaoi. His eyes were full of anger as he stared at the monarch sitting above and roared, "Big brother, what the hell is going on? Tell me quickly." Sigh. The monarch sighed and explained the situation in detail. "What? It's these little bastards again. Damn it, I won't let you off." Ji Yunhai was furious, his eyes filled with hatred. Feeling Ji Yunhai's hatred for Qin Feiyong and the others, the monarch's heart trembled, and he said in a deep voice, "Yunhai, don't be rash. Grandfather and the others have made it clear that you are not allowed to hate them, and you are not allowed to attack them in private." "Why?" Ji Yunhai looked at the monarch in disbelief. These little bastards had taken away Ji Shaoi's battle soul, and he was not allowed to hate them? Wasn't this siding with these outsiders? Because the monarch paused for a moment, but in the end, he didn't hide it inside. Because these elders have already made their stance clear, he couldn't hide it. After all, Ji Shaoi was in the village at that time. Although Ji Shaoi was already unconscious when the group of elders completely made their stance clear, it wasn't difficult to guess from the group of elders' attitude towards Qin Feiyong and the others. What? Ji Yunhai's gaze trembled. Made their stance clear? This was too childish. Weren't they afraid that the sovereign would find out and bring a calamity to their Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan? This matter still needs to be kept a secret. Now, I didn't hide it from you because I trust you. After all, we are blood brothers. and I feel that brothers should treat each other with sincerity. Therefore, you must not reveal this matter to others, including our clansmen, the monarch reminded. I know the seriousness of this matter, but I still can't figure it out. What ability do they have exactly to make grandfather and the others trust them so much? Ji Yunhai raised his brows. Although I feel that it's a little ridiculous, I have to admit that this group of youngsters is more outstanding than us, the older generation. Do you know where the owners of the strongest battle souls are now? The monarch asked. Ji Yunhai shook his head. They are all beside Qin Feiyang. And my grandson, Qin Batian, is also your grandson. He is the owner of the Eye of Reincarnation. The monarch sighed. What? Ji Yunhai's gaze trembled. Qin Feiyang had the Eye of Heaven, and Qin Batian was actually the owner of the Eye of Reincarnation. Therefore, this might be the reason why grandfather and the others made their stance clear. Now, the 10 strongest battle souls, the Eye of Heaven, Eye of Life, Eye of Despair, Eye of Evil, Eye of Heaven, and Eye of Destiny have already evolved. As for the remaining Eye of Reincarnation, Eye of Destruction, Eye of Oblivion, and Eye of Nihility, it won't be long before they evolve. When the 10 strongest battle souls are gathered, think about it. What kind of scene will it be? The monarch sighed. Thinking of this, even with his calm temperament, he couldn't help but feel excited. Chapter 4104. Ji Yunhai was stunned. He had never thought that these old men would make such a decision. He had never thought that all the owners of the strongest battle souls would be with Qin Feiyang. What kind of joke was this? The Eye of Heaven was able to defeat everyone, and even the Divine Kingdom couldn't do anything about it, let alone the other 9 owners of the battle souls. I know that no matter what I say, you'll definitely hold a grudge. However, you can't do anything that will harm the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. The Lord warned. Even Grandpa and the others have made it so clear. What else can I say? Ji Yunhai laughed at himself. Although he was the Lord's brother, his talent and comprehension were much weaker than the Lord's. Not to mention the Lord. As the Lord's son, Heavenly Lord Ji was also his nephew. He had already grasped the will of heaven, while he had only grasped the ultimate meaning of the 2 strongest laws. Even Ryuko and the others had already caught up with him. So, although he was the Lord's brother, he didn't have any right to speak in the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, or even the entire Divine Kingdom, let alone challenge the old men like Boss Ji. Sigh. The Lord sighed. It was obvious that Ji Yunhai was unwilling, but the situation had already been decided, and he had no other choice. He couldn't ask Dong Xingyang for the Eye of Destiny back. I'll go back first. Ji Yunhai carried the unconscious Ji Shaoi and said to the Lord, Okay. The Lord nodded. However, before Ji Yunhai turned around, the Lord reached out and shouted, Wait, is there anything else? Ji Yunhai looked at him in confusion. How about this? You, Shaoi, and Tianfeng will find time to go to the land of inheritance and accept the inheritance of the 3,000 incarnations. This will be your compensation. The Lord said. Huh. Ji Yunhai looked at the Lord in shock. Was this true? He actually wanted them to go to the land of inheritance. The Lord said, I hope that after receiving the 3,000 incarnations, you can completely let go of the grudge with Qin Feiyang. Then how will you explain to Grandpa and the others? To accept the inheritance of the 3,000 incarnations, you must get their consent. Ji Yunhai hastily asked. You don't have to worry about this. When the time comes, I will bring a bramble and ask for punishment. The king smiled faintly. Big brother. Ji Yunhai's eyes reddened. To the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, the 3,000 clones were a supreme treasure. There was no one who didn't want it. But the rules of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon race were rather strict. Even if he was a direct descendant, if he didn't have outstanding talent, he wouldn't be qualified. Ji Yunhai had long wanted it. Unfortunately, his talent was too poor. He even thought that there might not be any hope in this lifetime. But who would have thought that this time, it would be a blessing in disguise, and he would be given this opportunity? And he wasn't the only one. Even his son, Ji Tianfeng, and his grandson, Ji Shaoi, also received this opportunity. This was a great fortune. Even though the Eye of Destiny was very powerful, he believed that the 3,000 clones were the most powerful technique of the purple-gold divine dragon race. Thank you, big brother. When he came back to his senses, he immediately knelt on the ground and spoke with tears in his eyes. The monarch hurriedly got up and went forward to help Ji Yunhai up. He smiled and said, "We're blood brothers. Why are you saying all this? Cherish this opportunity and don't disappoint me." "Don't worry. From today onwards, I won't find any trouble with Qin Feiyong and the rest. I will also keep this a secret," Ji Yunhai solemnly promised. "I believe you. However, you have to restrain Tianfeng and Shaoyi well, especially Shaoyi. His Eye of Destiny was stolen, and he even resented grandfather and the rest. This must be stopped. Otherwise, even I won't be able to save him in the future," the monarch said in a low voice. "What? He resented grandfather and the rest?" Ji Yunhai was shocked. He lowered his head to look at the unconscious Ji Shaoyi and said angrily, "This rascal! How dare he?" Late at night, on the mythical island, everything had returned to tranquility. The destroyed mythical island was now floating in the night sky in perfect condition again. But now, the security was even tighter than before. But to Qin Feiyong, no matter how tight the security was, it was useless. This was because their current strength was enough to destroy any defense. At this moment, at the back of the mythical island, Qin Feiyong, Long Qin, Mu Qing, and Li Feng stood facing the wind. They had chosen to enter the mythical island from the back because they wanted to avoid the mythical island from the front. After all, there were too many people in the mythical island. The back of the mythical island was full of majestic mountains. Although there were many powerful people from the mythical island hiding in the mountains, and in terms of quality, they were far superior to the mythical island. But in terms of quantity, they were just a drop in the ocean compared to the mythical island. The most important thing was, in the mountains at the back were the direct descendants of the mythical island. They were of the same mind as the Divine King. As long as the Divine King gave an order, the news would not be leaked. But the mythical island was different. The people in the mythical island were the direct descendants of the mythical island. Although they also respected the Divine King, there were too many people. What if the news was leaked? So, these hidden dangers had to be guarded against. Who is it? Soon, in the mountains, someone discovered Qin Feiyong and the rest. Several figures flashed across the sky like lightning and landed on the edge of the island. These people were middle-aged and dressed in black. Like ghosts, they blended into the night. If they had not spoken in advance, it would have been difficult to discover them. They were the law enforcers of the mythical island who were responsible for patrolling the island. However, when they saw the faces of Qin Feiyong and the rest, they suddenly changed color. Why did these fiends come to the mythical island again? Don't be nervous. Just when they were about to call for reinforcements, Qin Feiyong said with a smile, "We are here to visit the Divine King. Please report to him." Visit? They were slightly stunned. They could not believe it at all. Twice they came to the mythical island to make trouble. The second time, they directly destroyed the mythical island. Now they came to visit. Who were they trying to fool? Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. If you force us to take action, you will only be unlucky. A cold light flashed in Long Qin's eyes. Although he did not have the means of Qin Feiyong and the rest, after mastering the will of heaven, he was full of confidence. Their pupils constricted. One of the law enforcers hurriedly said, "The Divine King is cultivating in seclusion. He said in advance that he will not see anyone." Cultivating in seclusion? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Shouldn't he be repairing his body? Because at that time, the bodies of the Divine King and the 10 lords of the God clan had been shattered by him. But now, how could he be cultivating? Could it be that the Divine King and the 10 lords were too embarrassed to tell the truth, so they lied and said that they were cultivating? Li Feng's eyes flashed with killing intent, and he said, "Even if she is cultivating in seclusion, let her come out immediately. Otherwise, we don't mind destroying the mythical island again." "You." The law enforcers glared at Li Feng. He was too arrogant. He did not take the God clan seriously at all. Long Qin said, "I will count to 3. If you don't report it, don't blame us for being ruthless. Let's go, let's go. Before Long Qin could count, the law enforcers were in a mess. One of them immediately turned around, activated the moment of time, and disappeared into the night. The remaining law enforcers stared at Qin Feiyang and the others vigilantly. This was a group of lawless people. If they were not careful, they might be killed. After a while, the law enforcers who had left finally returned. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the others, took a deep breath, took out a token, stepped forward, and opened the barrier. He said, "The Divine King invites you to the Divine Palace for a chat. Lead the way." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Is he really asking them to go to the Divine Palace? The other law enforcers were secretly surprised. How can I dare to pass down the order? The law enforcers smiled helplessly. In fact, he did not understand why the Divine King wanted to see these people. Then go quickly. Don't neglect anything on the way. The law enforcers reminded him. I know. The law enforcers responded and immediately led Qin Feiyang and the others to the central area of the Divine Mountain. A few seconds later, a towering giant mountain entered the sight of Qin Feiyang and the others. The giant mountain was tens of thousands of feet high. At the top of the mountain sat a magnificent palace. This was the residence of the Divine King, the Divine Palace. The palace was surrounded by a garden. Small trees were lush, hundreds of flowers were blooming, and there was a clear stream. In front of the palace was a small square. There was no one in sight. The group of people landed on the square. This place was surrounded by clouds and mist, with beautiful mountains and clear waters. It could be said to be a fairyland. Lord Divine King, Qin Feiyang and the others have been brought here. The law enforcers bowed to the closed palace. Before the law enforcers finished speaking, the door of the palace slowly opened. The law enforcers looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and said, "Please come in." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and walked toward the Divine Palace. Long Qin, Mu Qing, and Li Feng followed closely behind. There was a trace of worry in the law enforcers' eyes, but they did not dare to interrupt. They silently watched the four of them disappear into the Divine Palace. Boom! The door of the palace closed. In the palace, there was a dazzling array of jades and emeralds. The ground was also covered with snow-white jade. It was really magnificent. In the side palace, the Divine King sat alone at the tea table. On the tea table, there was not only a pot of tea, but also an exquisite incense burner. A faint fragrance floated in the air. "Senior Divine King, you are in a good mood." Qin Feiyang walked over with a smile. The Divine King raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He said indifferently, "You came from the back of the island in the middle of the night. You must have something to hide. Don't waste my time. Just say it." The four of them walked to the tea table. Without asking for the Divine King's permission, they sat directly opposite the Divine King. Then, they sized up the Divine King. The Divine King was still in the form of a divine soul. The Divine King raised his eyebrows. There was a trace of irritation between his eyebrows. She was most annoyed by this group of people now. Originally, she did not want to see them at all, but she had no choice. Now that her and the 10 venerables' bodies had been shattered, if Qin Feiyang attacked at this time, the deity clan would definitely be destroyed. Therefore, she endured her anger and murderous intent to receive Qin Feiyang and the others. This was also a way to show that she was afraid of breaking the vases. That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.